Chapter 137. The Terminator of the Atmosphere. The originally solemn and stirring atmosphere instantly disappeared after Tony spoke. "We won." Rogers of the American team looked away from Tony and said tiredly, "Guys, good job. Let's not go to work tomorrow and give ourselves a day off. Have you eaten Turkish barbecue? There's a Turkish barbecue restaurant 2 streets away. I haven't been there, but I want to try it." If it weren't for the fact that Tony was still lying on the ground with obvious scars all over his armor, he would have thought that Tony was dead. Based on his current appearance, no one would think that he was the superhero who had carried a nuclear bomb into the portal. "It's not over yet." Thor didn't reject Tony's suggestion, but he looked up at the Stark Tower that had lost its top floor. "Then we'll go later." A few minutes later, Thor and the others came to the platform where the space gem was placed. They saw Loki, who was in a daze, and Rog, who had been waiting for them. "The scepter and Loki are both here. You can do whatever you want with them." After that, Roger tossed the scepter in his hand to Rogers of the American team. Although there was a soul gem in the scepter, Rog didn't plan to keep it for himself. Or rather, he didn't plan to do so yet. After taking the scepter from Rog, Captain America looked at him in confusion and asked, "Is this scepter different from the previous one?" "This one is a little more powerful," Rog answered casually. As for the soul gem in the scepter, he didn't plan to tell him now. If possible, he hoped that the future would develop in the direction he was familiar with as much as possible. Whether or not Ultron and Illusion would be born wasn't his main concern. What he really cared about was Scarlet Witch Walter. "I definitely don't want Walter's body. I just care about Walter's superpower." Yes, only her superpower. Absolutely. According to his plan, Walter's superpower was the key to activating the Mangekyo. Although he could also directly exchange for the Mangekyo in the system, considering that this evolution required 300 ninja coins, he decisively gave up on this plan. That was 300 ninja coins. As for the most orthodox way of upgrading, experiencing great negative emotions, such as witnessing the death of a loved one, this was not in his consideration from the beginning. After completing the final handover, they finally went to the Turkish barbecue restaurant that Tani had mentioned, and had a depressing lunch. Time passed in a flash. Unknowingly, a week had passed since the Battle of New York. In the past week, S.H.I.E.L.D. showed its existence in a high-profile manner, dealing with the various problems left over from the Battle of New York. The corpses of the Chitauri warriors, various alien weapons and technology, collateral damage caused by the war, and the guidance and control of public opinion. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. started various post-war treatment measures in the first place, the existence of the Avengers still spread throughout the world. Iron Man Tony Stark, Captain America Steve Rogers, Hulk Banner, Thor Black Widow Natasha, Hawkeye Barton, and the mysterious Masked Man. Although Rog was not a member of the Avengers from the beginning to the end, people tacitly agreed that he was one of them. It couldn't be helped. After all, he acted like he was on steroids during the battle. Fortunately, Rog had considered this problem from the beginning, and had always been wearing his 3-tomo mask. Therefore, perhaps, not many people knew his true identity. S.H.I.E.L.D. took Loki's scepter, and Thor took the Tesseract and Loki. Tony and Banner, 2 people with high IQs, hooked up together, and carried out some research that ordinary people can't understand. Rogers, Natasha, and Barton began their respective vacations, and were currently in a state of disconnection. After handing over Loki to the replicator, the system's commission finally changed to a completed state, and sent 200 ninja coins to Rog. In addition to the 40 ninja coins he originally had, the number of unconsumed ninja coins reached 240, which was a small savings. In general, everything was similar to what he expected, except for one thing that he didn't expect at all. His law firm had been destroyed. Before leaving the firm, he also specifically told Erica and others to be ready to fight and protect the firm. But he never thought that the invasion of the Chitauri army would still destroy his firm. To be precise, the person who destroyed his firm was not the Chitauri warriors, but the abomination Bronski. He didn't know if this guy was angry, or he couldn't control his destructive power for a while. When killing those Chitauri warriors, the abomination successfully destroyed the firm. It was so damaged that there was no need to repair it, because the entire office building had collapsed. After saving all the things in the firm that were still worth saving, Rog said goodbye to the firm that had accompanied him for several years, and then chose a new office location. This time he didn't choose those remote streets. Instead, he directly moved his office to the famous Empire State Building. Not only that, he also canceled the Rog Detective Agency that he had used for several years, and registered a new company, Konoha Private Military and Security Consulting Company. In the country of the United States, private military companies are completely legal. The premise is to pay taxes on time. Erica and others had no doubts about Rog's change of the detective agency into a private military company. From the beginning, they didn't think that Rog's firm was a detective agency. Have you ever seen a detective agency whose main business is fighting and killing? Only an outlier like Rog would make this kind of business the main business of a detective agency. Therefore, changing it to a private military company is more in line with their current situation. But there was one thing they didn't understand. That was why Rog changed the name of the company to Konoha. In this regard, Rog's explanation was only a short sentence. Where the leaves of Konoha fly, the fire grows endlessly. After changing the firm to a private military company, Rog's commissions finally became normal. The commissions of rich women asking for children, assisting the rich second generation to pick up girls, finding lost cats and dogs, and so on completely disappeared in front of them. Plain days passed, and more than a month after moving to the Empire State Building, Rog finally received a commission recognized by the system. Commission content: capture the uncontrollable lizard test body in the sewers of New York. Commission status: incomplete. Commission reward: 30 ninja coins. Chapter 138. The uncontrollable lizard test subject in the sewer? Rog didn't plan to take the commission himself, but he changed his mind after seeing that the client was Oscorp's head of security. Oscorp is a large group as famous as Stark Industries, and both are important suppliers to the U.S. military. However, unlike Stark Industries, which specializes in energy and military technology, Oscorp's main research direction is in the field of biotechnology. Green Goblin Norman Osborn, Green Goblin 2 Harry Osborn, Spider-Man Peter Parker, Lizard Professor Kurt Connors, Octopus Dr. Octopus Octavius, Electric Man Max, Rhino Man. After accepting the commission from Oscorp, Rog's mind flashed through the names of people who were more or less related to Oscorp. Sky, come in for a second. Rog pressed the office phone on the desk and called Sky in from the next office. Although the company was moved to the Empire State Building, the newly established Konoha Private Military Company still maintained its original streamlined appearance. Simply put, there are still only 5 of them in the whole company. The only change is that everyone has their own office. Even Frank the Punisher and Bronsky the Abomination have their own offices. But because of their appearance, they haven't really been to the new company yet. What's the matter? After entering Rog's office, Sky sat down in front of Rog and said casually, "Help me look up a man called Peter Parker. He should still be an elementary school student now, or maybe he is already in middle school. I want all his information." Peter Parker? Elementary school student? Yes. Although she didn't know what Rog was going to do, Sky happily accepted the task. After the Battle of New York, Rog made a small deal with Sky. Sky would become a part of the company and would be responsible for information and intelligence gathering. In return, Rog will help her find information about her parents. Sky wanted to investigate by herself, but after S.H.I.E.L.D.'s high-profile appearance, she found that she could never investigate the information she wanted from S.H.I.E.L.D. alone. So she had the idea of Rog, who was mistaken by the outside world as a member of the Avengers. Then there was that little deal. When Sky left, Rog once again picked up the information provided by Oscorp and browsed it carefully. Due to an experimental accident, a certain experimental lizard had a mutated body similar to that of a human. Strong, agile, berserk, has a certain degree of intelligence, and a green appearance. The information provided by Oscorp was very limited. But this was normal. After all, the specific information and data belonged to Oscorp's trade secrets, and they had no need to disclose it to the public. According to Oscorp, this was a mutant lizard. However, if he was not mistaken, this was not a mutant lizard at all. This was the lizard professor himself. According to the head of security, in order to catch this mutant lizard, they had lost a lot of manpower, so they had to entrust it to a private military company. Unfortunately, all of the private military companies that accepted the commission failed without exception. Finally, under the recommendation of a reliable person, they found this ROG, Konoha's private military company that was just established a month ago. In the field of private military companies, Konoha is a completely new company. But Konoha's price is no less than that of those established companies. A single commission starts at least $10 million, and the full payment must be paid in advance. If it wasn't for the fact that there was no other way, Oscorp wouldn't have found Konoha and paid $30 million for it. During the war in New York, they flew in the sky, and now they have to drill into the sewers. But for the sake of $30 million and 30 ninja coins, the sewers will do. After putting down the information in his hand, ROG used the shadow clone jutsu. Bang bang bang. 8 shadow clones appeared in front of him in an instant. Things like drilling into the sewers should be done as little as possible. So he decisively handed over the early investigation work to the shadow clone jutsu. These 8 shadow clones will go to the places where Dr. Lizard appeared before to see if they can find the current whereabouts of Dr. Lizard. As long as they can determine a general range, he can use chakra perception to lock the exact location of Dr. Lizard. Although he can also use chakra perception to find traces of Dr. Lizard now, it will be very tiring, very tiring. New York currently has a population of about 20 million people. Dr. Lizard's life energy intensity will be stronger than normal ordinary people, but it definitely won't reach the point where it can be found at a glance. Instead of looking for it himself, it's better to let the shadow clone jutsu determine a general range first. Anyway, the shadow clone jutsu won't have any problem with drilling into the sewers. When the shadow clone jutsu was about to leave the office with the flying thunder god, he suddenly remembered something. All of you, turn into Nick Fury. He's also the president of a private military company, and he still needs to give face. As for Nick Fury, he shouldn't mind being seen in the sewers. With the title of King Fokker, it's impossible for him to mind these trivial matters. After the shadow clone jutsu left, ROG also returned home with the flying thunder god. He then started playing Berserker's Creed, which he still hasn't cleared yet. A few hours later, just as he controlled a certain Kong-style assassin who didn't want to reveal his name to complete a perfect infiltration, he received feedback that one of the shadow clones took the initiative to deactivate. At the same time, the feedback was the information that the shadow clone found. It's time to work. After deactivating the other 7 shadow clones, ROG summoned the Kusanagi sword and the 3 Tomo mask, and then the flying thunder god went to the last location of the shadow clone jutsu. After teleporting into the sewers, the first thing he did was to erase the flying Thor tactic left behind by the shadow clone jutsu. There are enough flying Thor tactics in New York. There's no need to leave another one in a place where it can only teleport once. After erasing the flying Thor tactic, he used chakra perception to sense the surrounding situation. It's really here. Putting on the 3 Tomo mask, he moved quickly on the walls of the sewers in a way that didn't conform to the law of gravity. Spider-Man wasn't the only one who could walk on the walls. As he continued to move forward, he encountered more and more lizards. There were all kinds of lizards, big and small. These lizards seemed to be summoned from the depths of their souls as they crawled forward one by one. Chapter 139. What is charm? That's it. Dr. Lizard probably didn't expect that he would have such great charm after transforming. The only pity was that his damn charm was only effective on lizards. If his attractiveness could work on humans, then he could become the superstar of this era. But now, he could only become a superstar in the eyes of lizards. You are electricity, you are light, you are the only legend. In the hearts of these lizards, Dr. Lizard was their god. He was their everything, their entire world. After following these brainless lizards for a while, ROG finally saw the goal of his trip. A lizard man with a height of 2 to 3 meters. When he saw the lizard doctor also saw him. However, Dr. Lizard didn't attack him immediately, but curiously looked at the uninvited guest wearing a mask. Dr. Lizard was no stranger to the 3 Tomo mask on ROG's face. To be precise, no one was unfamiliar with it. This was the mask of the Avengers' masked man. After the Battle of New York, the Avengers became famous. The consequence of becoming famous was that they had a lot of fans and a lot of derivative products. Iron Man figurines, Hulk dolls, Hawkeye's bow model, Thor's hammer toy, the mask of the masked man. As long as you can think of it, there is nothing they can't do. Even Rog himself bought several of the same figurines and placed them at home. He had to say that those figurines were quite realistic. Especially the one where he stood on the round fan and waved the Kusanagi sword. It was particularly exquisite. And as far as he knew, the top toy companies that were selling the best were acquired by Tani some time ago. This also led to the products of Hulk, Thor, Rog, and others often being inexplicably out of stock. And Iron Man figurines had the most styles and never ran out of stock. At first sight, Dr. Lizard thought that Rog was a loyal fan of the masked man. However, he soon found that something was wrong. Rog was standing on the wall. After discovering this, Dr. Lizard's pupils involuntarily shrank a little. This guy is really the masked man. In an instant, several thoughts flashed through his mind. I am not an alien. After a few seconds of silence, Dr. Lizard finally said his first sentence. If he could, Dr. Lizard would never use this sentence as an opening remark. However, his current appearance forced him to do so. Although he doesn't look like a Chitauri, his current appearance is also completely different from a human. The Avengers were famous for fighting against the invasion of aliens. After confirming that Rog was the masked man, his first reaction was that he was mistaken as an alien. That attracted Rog. I know you're not an alien. Rog did not expect the lizard professor's first sentence to be this. Then can I leave? Dr. Lizard suppressed the beast-like killing instinct in his heart and tried his best to speak in a harmless tone. If it weren't for the fact that it was a little difficult to smile now, he would definitely have a smile when he said this. The serum affected Dr. Lizard's mind to a certain extent, but it didn't make him lose all his rationality. Although he now felt that he was a perfect creature that surpassed humans, he was not arrogant enough to compete with the masked man. On the internet, there were a few highlights of Rog's battle with the Leviathan behemoth. Dr. Lizard just happened to watch these videos. Leave? Of course not. You are my mission target, and I have something I need your help with. Rog's tone was as calm as ever, but in Dr. Lizard's ears, it was no different from a bolt from the blue. After hearing Rog's answer, Dr. Lizard was silent. Then he exploded. F***CK the mission target. F***CK the masked man. I'm a perfect creature in the history of evolution, the future of mankind, the master of the world. Not sure if he was provoked by Rog's words, or if he couldn't suppress the wild instinct in his heart. Dr. Lizard changed his previous caution and directly pounced on Rog. His courage was commendable. Unfortunately, it was useless. When Dr. Lizard's left claw, which was about the size of his chest, was 1 meter in front of him, he pulled out the Kusanagi sword from his waist. Lightning release, Chidori blade. The Kusanagi sword wrapped in electricity drew a beautiful arc. A glass-like smooth cut appeared on Dr. Lizard's left arm. The huge left claw fell directly into the sewage of the sewer, and bright red blood spurted out from the cut. When the blood was about to touch him, Rog used the teleportation technique to leave here. Dr. Lizard slammed into the wall where Rog was standing before, and then hung on it like a real gecko. The pain from his left arm not only didn't calm Dr. Lizard down, but it made him even crazier as he howled crazily. Then under Rog's gaze, Dr. Lizard's left claw grew back. In just a short 2 to 3 seconds, his left arm returned to its original state. This kind of recovery ability was very good. Although there was a problem with Dr. Lizard's serum, which made him unable to maintain his human form. But he had to admit that his design concept was correct. He did have the ability to regenerate broken limbs, and it was a very amazing ability. After his left arm recovered, Dr. Lizard didn't hesitate and pounced on Rog again. With one claw, he could tear this damn masked man in half. He only needed to succeed once. To a certain extent, Dr. Lizard's tactic was correct. However, he neglected a very serious problem. There was no way he could catch Rog. If he was in his normal human form, Dr. Lizard might have considered this point. But obviously, he didn't have this kind of rational thought right now. Facing Dr. Lizard, who pounced on him again, Rog didn't hold back and slashed with the Kusanagi sword again. Relying on his speed that far exceeded Dr. Lizard's, Log easily dodged Dr. Lizard's pounce, and then gave him 2 slashes. Since you can't calm down with one hand, then I'll break 2. If you can't calm down with 2 hands, then I'll cut off your legs as well. He was a master of physical persuasion. After missing again, Dr. Lizard couldn't hang on the wall like before, and fell to the sewer floor with his broken hands. Without both hands, he couldn't hang on the wall even if he wanted to. He was a lizard, not a gecko. Chapter 140. Even if he really was a gecko, he couldn't stick to the wall without his hands. A few seconds after falling on the floor of the sewer, Dr. Lizard's hands grew back, and he continued to show off his strength at Rog. Just when Rog thought that this guy was still unwilling to give up, the lizard doctor did something that he did not expect. He decisively turned around and ran. Dr. Lizard's beast instinct drove him to attack Rog, and now, it was the same beast instinct that drove him to escape. The strong desire to survive made Dr. Lizard burst out with astonishing speed, and quickly disappeared around the corner of the sewer. New York's sewers were much more complicated than the streets. In this labyrinthine sewer network, there were all kinds of unknown corners or corners. As long as he could successfully open up a distance, even if it was only for a short period of time, he could get rid of Rog. Dreams were plentiful, but reality was skinny. Dr. Lizard's escape speed was indeed fast, but Log's speed was even faster. Seeing Rog getting closer and closer, Dr. Lizard's potential was further stimulated, and he began to accelerate. Run like crazy. It was not fast enough. He had to be faster. Dr. Lizard displayed a speed that was completely out of line with his current size. He ran like a mad bull. However, he would never have thought that Rog was purposely suppressing his speed at this moment. He didn't want to catch up to Dr. Lizard. If he remembered correctly, Dr. Lizard's state was not stable. As long as the effect of the serum was completely consumed, Dr. Lizard would return to his human form. Dr. Lizard, whose mind was affected by the serum, was not a qualified person to talk to. He was waiting for Dr. Lizard to turn back into Cotter Connors. Under his deliberate expulsion, the serum in Dr. Lizard's body was quickly consumed. As if he realized that he had no hope of getting rid of Rog, Dr. Lizard stopped his meaningless run and turned to face Rog. "What do you want?" Dr. Lizard didn't attack Rog as he roared in a helpless tone. "I said before, you are my mission target. I need you to complete the mission. But before completing the mission, I need you to do me a small favor." Rog's tone was as calm as ever. "You come with me." After that, Dr. Lizard ignored Rog and went straight to his secret laboratory. After following Dr. Lizard in the sewer for a while, Rog saw Dr. Lizard's slightly shabby simple laboratory. Not long after returning to the laboratory, Dr. Lizard changed back to Cotter Connor's appearance under his nose. "Put this on. I'm not used to talking to men without clothes." Rog threw a white coat on the table to Connors. After putting on his clothes, Dr. Connors sat straight on the only chair and said, "Tell me, what do you want to do?" "2 things. First, I'll give you to Oscorp. Second." Before Roger could finish, Dr. Connors interrupted him. "Aren't you S.H.I.E.L.'s Avenger?" "Is this a deal between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Oscorp?" "I'm not S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm not an Avenger, and I have nothing to do with Oscorp. As for whether S.H.I.E.L.D. has any deal with Oscorp, I don't know, and I don't want to know. You listen carefully, don't interrupt me." After confirming that Dr. Connors had fully and thoroughly understood what he meant, Rog continued, "Oscorp gave me a commission, so I'm going to give you to them. Whether you want to or not, this is your ending. As for whether you can escape from Oscorp, that's your business. Second, do you remember Richard Parker? You are both experts in the field of cross-species genetics. The difference is that one of you studied spiders, and the other studied lizards." "Of course I remember him. He was a genius scientist. Unfortunately, an accident took his life." Dr. Connors certainly remembered Richard. They had a lot of dealings with each other when conducting cross-species genetic research. "If I give you a blood sample that can perfectly integrate Richard Parker's mutant spider, Can you restore Richard Parker's equation and make appropriate modifications? If there is only one Spider-Man in the world, it would be too boring. And who said that Spider-Man can only be a man? Spider-Gwen and Spider-Silk are both women. Restore the equation? Richard's research was not completed at all. The mutant spiders he developed could not be used for any species experiments at all. Dr. Connors knows exactly how far Richard's experiment has gone. Oscorp now has a large group of Richard's mutant spiders. But those mutant spiders have no experimental value at all except for their own mutation. No, he succeeded. It's just that you didn't find the right key. Rog gave a big news that Dr. Connors never thought of. Richard succeeded? How is this possible? Impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Oscorp has tried all species, and those mutant spiders can't integrate with any species at all. Dr. Connors said excitedly, not believing the news Rog gave him at all. Believe it or not, I just want to know, if there is such a blood sample, can you restore the equation? Looking at Rog's serious face, Dr. Connors thought seriously. If you really have such a blood sample, I should be able to restore the equation. But why should I help you? You're going to give me to Oscorp. Do you think I'll help you restore the equation? Although Rog hasn't said it clearly, recalling what he said before, Dr. Connors has roughly guessed something. You'll help me. There are 2 reasons. Your equation is not stable. Richard's equation can allow you to perfect your equation and really restore your right hand. Rog pointed to Dr. Connors' empty right arm, and then continued. Second, you don't really have a choice. When I give you to Oscorp, if you're lucky, they'll continue to let you do research, but you'll lose your freedom and become a tool of Oscorp. If you're unlucky, you should know exactly what will happen to you. I won't say much, after all, you're an expert in this field. But if you're willing to help me, then you're my friend. For friends, I usually help them solve some problems they can't solve. For example, let them not be bullied, or have freedom. After that, Rog stopped talking and waited silently for Dr. Connors' answer. Chapter 141. Dr. Connors didn't answer immediately, but bowed his head silently, as if seriously thinking about Rog's proposal. Rog didn't urge Dr. Connors because he could already guess Dr. Connors' answer. Dr. Connors is a smart man, and a smart man with a strong desire. For him, regrowing his lost right arm is definitely the most important thing in life, and there is no other. It is not difficult to lose a short period of freedom in order to gain the hope of truly restoring his right arm. As Rog expected, after a few minutes of silence, Dr. Connors gave the answer he wanted to hear. I can help you restore Richard's equation, but all this will have to wait until you rescue me from Oscorp. And, I want to know how you're going to rescue me? Oscorp can't be compared with S.H.I.E.L.D., but it's not the kind of existence that can be pinched. Dr. Connors looked up at Rog and asked the question he was most concerned about at the moment. It's simple. I'll leave a mark on you that only I can know. After handing you over to Oscorp, I'll confirm your location through this mark and take you away. It's not the first time Rog has done something like handing over the target to the client and taking the target away from the client after completing the commission. The last time he enjoyed this treatment was S.H.I.E.L.D., which was far stronger than Oscorp. As for whether Oscorp would have an opinion on this, Rog didn't care at all, because Oscorp couldn't know that he did it. Mark, are you sure this method will work? Dr. Connors doesn't doubt Rog's ability. People who can kill Leviathan Behemoth won't deceive him on this issue. And this kind of deception is meaningless, and will only affect the next cooperation between the two. But as a scientist, he has a rational doubt about what Rog said about the mark that only he can see. Don't worry, in this regard I never fail. In the next 10 minutes, Rog and Dr. Connors continued to communicate some details. Then, Rog gave Dr. Connors a hand knife and knocked him out completely. After leaving the sewer with the comatose Dr. Connors, Roger made a phone call to the Oscorp Group's head of security. When he received a call from Rog, the head of security named Alan froze for a moment, and then rushed over with a security team. It's only been 4 or 5 hours since the commission. Rog's super efficiency made Alan doubt the professionalism of the previous private military companies. They are all private military companies. How can there be such a big gap? Can't he have a little professional quality? Can this industry be good? More than half an hour later, Alan came with Oscorp's security team to the place and saw Dr. Connors, who was unconscious on the ground. He's here. Do you need to confirm his identity? Rog's voice. No, he's the person we are. With just a simple glance, Alan confirmed the identity of Dr. Connors. As Oscorp's head of security, Alan was no stranger to Dr. Connors. And when Dr. Connors had just escaped from Oscorp, he was the first to take people to hunt him down. It's just that he failed to hunt him down, so he entrusted the matter of private military companies outside. At Alan's signal, 5 or 6 security personnel quickly rushed up and added a bunch of restraints that Rog had never seen before to the unconscious Dr. Connors. After tying Dr. Connors up like a felon, the security personnel carried Dr. Connors to a special metal cage. Thank you for your help. We may have more opportunities to cooperate in the future. After that, Alan extended his right hand to Rog to express his gratitude. Happy cooperation. When Dr. Connors was imprisoned in a special metal cage, the status of the commission in the system was updated for the first time. Commission content. Capture the uncontrollable lizard test body in New York sewer. Commission status. Completed. Commission reward. 30 ninja coins sent. Ninja coins not consumed. 270. 30 ninja coins were easily obtained, and it was another day full of harvest. When Oscorp's security team disappeared from sight, Rog took out his mobile phone again and called the Punisher. Dr. Connors has been handed over to Oscorp according to the plan, so the things left by Dr. Connors naturally need to be dealt with. This is also the details that Rog had communicated with Dr. Connors before. The Punisher will take away the simple laboratory that Dr. Connors left in the sewer. Rog also needs to get the mutant spider cultivated by Richard and Peter Parker's blood samples before rescuing Dr. Connors. According to Dr. Connors, there is a laboratory dedicated to cultivating Richard's mutant spider next to the interspecies laboratory of Oscorp building. In that laboratory, there are thousands of mutant spiders. As long as you can enter the laboratory, you can easily get Richard's mutant spider. Invading a large company's secret laboratory may be a little difficult for ordinary people. But for Rog, it's as simple as going back to his own home to get things. He doesn't even have to do it himself, he just has to arrange a shadow clone. After instructing the Punisher, Rog first used the Flying Thunder God to return home to take a bath. After completely erasing the sewer smell from his body, he returned to his office with the Flying Thunder God. How is the investigation of Peter Parker's information going now? After returning to the office, Rog directly picked up the internal phone on the table and asked Sky about the progress of the investigation. The investigation has been done, and it has been sent to your mailbox. After answering Rog, Sky hung up the phone directly. Although the time of the call was very short, Rog heard the obvious tapping of the keyboard from the other end of the phone. She's not invading another government department, is she? Normally, Sky's daily hobby would not be too much of a problem. But the key to the problem is that she is always playing with some important confidential departments, such as S.H.I.E.L.D. Sky's hacking skills are of course top-notch, but that doesn't mean she can quietly invade S.H.I.E.L.D. If she had such an ability, she wouldn't have to cooperate with Rog. Not long after moving to the new company, Rog received a warm reminder from Mother Fokker, asking him to control Sky's curiosity a little. Chapter 142. Putting Sky's question behind him for the time being, Rog opened his mailbox and began to browse the information collected by Sky. Peter Parker, Father Richard Parker, 11 years old, lives in Queens, lives with his uncle and aunt after his parents died, and is currently studying at Ellie Pond Park Elementary School in Queens. Uncle Ben Parker, an ordinary skilled worker, Aunt May Parker, a nurse at a public hospital. In addition to this basic information, Sky also hacked into the elementary school where Peter was studying and found all of Peter's grades from the student database. All A's in all subjects. Although he is still young, little Peter has begun to perform as a genius, judging from his exam results and various evaluations given by the teacher. But at the end of the information, Sky specifically noted a piece of information. Introverted, not good at socializing, and has few friends. After reading Peter's information, Rog leaned back in his chair and began to think about a more serious problem. If he wanted to, he could make Peter become Spider-Man in advance. But the question is whether Peter, who is only 11 years old at present, can maintain his proper mind after gaining this extraordinary power. Not to mention that Peter is only a primary school student at present. Even those adults in their 30s and 40s may not be able to maintain their original mind after suddenly gaining great power. In case Peter's mind is affected by this power, then what will appear in the future will no longer be the superhero Spider-Man, but the supervillain Spider-Man. After thinking about it for a while, Rog finally gave up on the idea. Collecting Peter's blood is enough. As for his future, it's better not to interfere. After making the decision, Rog decisively displayed Shadow Clone. Bang! After the 2 clouds of smoke dissipated, 2 shadow clones appeared in front of him. Collecting Peter's blood and invading Oscorp were very simple, so Rog directly handed it over to the shadow clone. Before the 2 shadow clones set off, he also specifically told them to do it secretly as much as possible. When the shadow clone Flying Thunder God left the office, Rog picked up the phone on the desk again and dialed Sky's internal number. "What's the matter? Is there a problem with the information?" When the phone was connected, Sky's voice immediately came over, and there was a very obvious tapping sound on the keyboard. "Help me check another person's information. Her name was Gwen Stacy. Her father was a police captain in New York. His name was George Stacy. She should be a high school student now, but you'll have to find out which high school she's in." Rog told Sky everything he remembered. Female high school student. Hearing the word high school student, Sky's interest was piqued, and the sound of tapping on the keyboard disappeared. "If I'm not mistaken, he's a high school student. If you don't have any, you can also look into secondary schools or universities." After Rog finished speaking, there was a sudden silence on the other side of the phone. After a dozen seconds, there was a malicious laughter. "Mr. Rog, as the president of a private military company, don't you think it's very wretched for a hacker to investigate the information of a female high school student in the middle of the night? And don't forget, you're the masked man in the Avengers. Your behavior will make your female fans sad." Rog didn't speak, because he was sure that no matter how he answered, he would be ridiculed by Sky. "But at your current age, it's normal to be interested in the young opposite sex. After all, which man can refuse a youthful body full of vitality?" Sky, like discovering a new continent, opened the ridicule mode to his heart's content. "Your imagination is too rich. Start the investigation now. I hope to see Gwen's information as soon as possible." After that, Rog hung up the phone directly. Speaking of which, Sky's age should be about the same as Gwen's. It's just that one lives according to the normal trajectory of life, while the other deals with the dark side of the world all day long. If Sky's parents were normal, she should now be thinking about which university to apply to. Sigh, this is the damned fate. After instructing Sky, Rog also returned home with the Flying Thunder God. Before going to sleep, he deliberately used chakra perception to perceive Dr. Connor's Flying Thor technique and Dr. Connor's current strength of life energy. As he expected, Oscorp did not detain Dr. Connors in the Oscorp building, but took Dr. Connors to a secret research institute in the suburbs. And judging from Dr. Connor's current strength of life energy, he has not suffered any inhuman abuse, and his vital signs are stable and healthy. After confirming Dr. Connor's current situation, Rog went straight back to his room and went to sleep. According to their plan, he would not rescue Dr. Connors in the first place. The rescue time will be in a few days, and he needs to prepare all the equipment Dr. Connors needs in advance before the rescue. After a comfortable sleep and a hearty breakfast, Rog left home with the Flying Thunder God. Instead of returning to the company directly, he teleported directly to the warehouse prepared by the Punisher. This warehouse was originally a temporary base prepared by the Punisher for himself and Abomination. But after knowing that Rog wanted him to prepare a safe and secretive laboratory, he had to share this warehouse. After a busy night, he moved all the equipment and data left in the sewer by Dr. Connors to the warehouse. And now, in addition to him, who has been busy all night, there are also two of Rog's shadow doppelgangers in the warehouse. Peter's blood sample, Richard's mutant spider. The two most important raw materials for restoring Richard's super spider equation are ready. Dr. Connors can start restoring Richard's super spider equation by just preparing the various professional equipment needed by the Research Institute. These professional equipment are not difficult to find, but some more professional channels are needed. And Rog happens to know people who have such channels. After calling Tani again and paying $50 million, he got what he wanted smoothly. Tani didn't know what he wanted to do, but from the professional equipment he bought, Tani could roughly guess his plan. Biotechnology research, high-end technology in the field of genetics. But Tani didn't say anything about it. After all, everyone has their own little hobbies, and in his opinion, Rog is not the kind of madman who will destroy the world. Chapter 143. It had to be said that Tani's private channels were useful, and the efficiency was even amazing. 12 hours after the payment, Rog received a call from a biological research and development equipment company to pick up the goods. Of course, there was no need to do such heavy work himself. And the shadow clone was the best helper. There was nothing wrong with being lazy. It was because humans were lazy enough that there was a technologically advanced world. So Rog enjoyed this feeling of laziness with a clear conscience. After arranging the shadow clone to collect the goods, he opened his mailbox and began to browse the information collected by Sky. Gwen Stacy, 17 years old this year, studying at Zhongqing High School of Science and Technology, had both parents and two younger brothers. Like Peter Parker, Gwen was also a top student, with the highest A's in all subjects. But there was one thing that made her different from Peter. She was a very popular and beautiful scholar. Blonde hair, blue eyes, outstanding appearance, and a good figure. Although she would not graduate until next year, Sky found that she had been scheduled to be the next graduate representative when she searched the school database and the principal's computer. Compared with her, Peter Parker was like an unknown passerby. She was good-looking, had good grades, and had a good family background. She was a proper school goddess. After reading Gwen's information, Rog fell into deep thought. Just as Sky mocked him yesterday, with his current identity, it was difficult for him to have a normal intersection with an ordinary female high school student. If he suddenly went to her door, he would most likely be regarded as the kind of lecher with bad intentions. Should he go against his conscience and play the role of a sea king who was confused by beauty? Then he would play hard to get, deceive the world, and loot a burning house. Finally, he would guide Gwen to become Spider-Gwen, and let Spider-Gwen, who would only appear in a parallel universe, appear in this world. This method seemed quite feasible, but it would seem a bit perverted. But if he didn't have an intersection with Gwen, he could only secretly let the improved mutant spider bite her. But in this way he would seem even more perverted. Perverted, or even more perverted, this was the question. After thinking about it seriously for more than 10 minutes, he decided to temporarily give up on this problem. Even if he wants Spider-Gwen to appear in the world, he has to wait for Dr. Connors to restore Richard's super spider equation. It was too early to think about how to get in touch with Gavin. A few days later, Rog rescued Dr. Connors from Oscorp's Secret Research Institute as agreed. Of course, the one who went to save them was not himself, but a shadow clone that had transformed into Loki. As the instigator of the Battle of New York, Loki wouldn't mind taking the blame for him. Doctor, it seems like you've been doing well these past few days. With a ruddy complexion and full of spirit, Dr. Connors did not look as down and out as when he was in the sewer. Dr. Connors' current image perfectly conforms to his status as a doctor. They wanted me to continue perfecting the equation, so they were quite polite to me, other than letting those amateur third-rate fellows do research on my body. At the beginning, Dr. Connors' tone was calm, but towards the end, Rog felt a strong killing intent from him. These are small problems. When you complete the real equation, you can consider giving them a small gift as a thank you gift. Although Rog has not experienced this kind of body research, he can understand Dr. Connors' dissatisfaction. As a well-deserved leader in the field of cross-species genetics, he also has a powerful strength beyond ordinary people. As a result, he was studied as a white mouse by people who were far inferior to him. This kind of thing would be unbearable for anyone. I've got the equipment and instruments you asked me to prepare. Richard's mutant spider and blood samples had also been prepared. If you have nothing else to do, I hope you can start as soon as possible. Rog pointed to the temporary laboratory behind him that was not exquisite, but was professional enough. No problem. As soon as he finished speaking, Dr. Connors went straight into the laboratory and began the reverse restoration of Richard's super spider equation. When Dr. Connors began to work seriously, Rog returned to his office with the Flying Thunder God. Professional things should be left to professionals. And with the Punisher, he doesn't have to worry about Dr. Connors having any ideas that he shouldn't have. Days passed and unknowingly, more than half a month has passed. Although there is Peter's blood sample and Richard's mutant spider, it is still not easy to reverse restore Richard's equation. Dr. Connors is indeed a rare talent, but he is not a super genius like Tawny and Banner. The progress of restoring the equation is much slower than the two of them expected. According to Dr. Connors himself, there is still one of the most important key data that has not been derived, and it may take a week or two to complete the final restoration. Rog didn't care too much about this. As long as it can be restored, it doesn't matter if the time is slow. While Dr. Connors was restoring the equation, Rog was not idle and began to attack Gavin. No, it's getting to know her. In order to make the acquaintance between the two not seem so abrupt, he used a slightly roundabout method. First of all, he found a charity public welfare organization. Then, in his personal name, he donated a sum of $10 million to the charity organization and set up a charity fund to thank the New York police for their contributions. Finally, with the assistance of the public welfare organization, a charity party to thank the New York police for fighting against the Chitauri was born. When drawing up the invitation list, he included several police stations on the list of key thanks, including the police station where Gavin's father, Sheriff George, was located. Although the process was a little complicated, he finally achieved his goal and successfully got to know Sergeant George and his family. When Sheriff George shook his hand to express his gratitude, a trace of guilt emerged in his heart. If you know that I'm thinking about your baby girl, you certainly won't have any idea of thanking me. Maybe you'll have the idea of shooting me directly in the head. With such a foreshadowing, the subsequent things were much simpler. Although Rog is now a typical single dog, he was an out-and-out VIP player before crossing over. The former little white dragon in the waves is now going to start galloping again. Chapter 144. What is the saying? If she is not deeply involved in the world, take her to see the prosperity of the world. If her heart has been vicissitudes, take her to ride the merry-go-round. This used to be Rog's tactical plan to gallop on the battlefield. But he later found out that this was not his real trump card. What really made him a little white dragon in the waves was not these seemingly reasonable methods, but a simple and crude fact that couldn't be any more simple and crude. Handsome. Very handsome. Very handsome. This is the trump card that made him famous. However, just as he was about to gallop, he soon encountered the Waterloo of his life. For a top student who likes knowledge more, his previous undefeated handsomeness has suffered an unprecedented challenge. Although he deliberately created several romantic encounters that little girls of Gwen's age would like, the cruel reality slapped him a few times. The 8-pack abdominal muscles with obvious lines, the golden ratio figure that is thin with clothes and fleshy without clothes, plus the handsome face that does not lose to the popular little fresh meat. Not only has his appearance not deteriorated, but it is better than before. Coupled with the fact that he now has a lot of wealth, in terms of external conditions, his charm should be several levels higher than before. It shouldn't be, even if cultural concepts are not the same, it shouldn't be such a bleak start. Even the well-informed widow of New York has been thinking about him, which shows that his charm has always been on the line. What exactly went wrong? It can't be because a top student only likes a top student, right? After thinking about it for a few minutes, Rog felt that this possibility seemed quite high. Of all the personas, a top student is the most difficult to disguise, especially in front of a real top student. Forget it, don't think about it. I'm not going to pick her up. I just want her to become the superhero Spider-Gwen. Time passed day by day. Dr. Connors continued the work of reverse restoring the equation, and Rog continued his daily life, accepting commissions, completing commissions, asking Gwen to eat, accepting commissions, completing commissions, asking Gwen to watch movies. To be honest, Rog is quite satisfied with the current pace of life. The difficulty of the commissions is not high, and the rewards given by the system are also very reasonable. The amount of chakra has also been increasing, and the development of wood release ninjutsu and Sharingan genjutsu is also progressing well. Except for the last key data of the equation that Dr. Connors couldn't figure out, everything else was pretty good. Last time, Dr. Connors said that it would only take a week or two to derive the final key data. However, 3 months had passed, and he was still trying to deduce the key data. In order to support Dr. Connors' research, his savings dropped at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the number of bank deposits almost fell below 10 digits. Fortunately, the hard-working punishers and abominations made up for some of his losses to a large extent. Just when he thought that these peaceful days would continue, he suddenly received a call from Coulson. "Rog, we have a problem right now. If it's convenient for you, please come over immediately. The address is in Brooklyn." After telling Rog an address, Coulson immediately hung up the phone, or was forced to hang up the phone. "What's this? Do you really think I'm a member of the Avengers?" Although he said that, he still teleported to the nearest block to the location Coulson said, and then walked towards the address Coulson said. However, when he just arrived at the block Coulson said, he suddenly felt a familiar and strange breath. The moment he sensed this aura, his face became abnormally cold. Shield really dares to do anything. After using the body flicker technique several times in a row, he came to the office building that Coulson said, and then saw a scene like purgatory on Earth. This office building is not big, only 6 floors, and the building is older than Rog. From the outside, it looked like an unremarkable old office building. But as soon as he walked into the lobby on the first floor of the office building, he could see corpses one after another, and they died in the way he was familiar with. Would release, cutting technique. The cause of death of these corpses was the same as his cutting technique. Wooden thorns pierced out of the corpses and blood stained the floor, and their deaths were extremely tragic. After taking a few deep breaths and temporarily suppressing the anger in his heart, Rog came to a corpse, and then cut off one of the wooden thorns with kunai. Although from the outside, these wooden thorns were very similar to the wooden thorns he used to perform the cutting technique. But in fact, the two were completely different. The wooden thorns in his hand were completely ordinary wood, without any chakra on them, and they did not have the amazing vitality of his wood release. In terms of hardness, these wooden thorns were far inferior to the wood he summoned with wood release. The wood he summoned with wood release, even without the supply of chakra, couldn't be easily cut by ordinary metal knives. The huge difference between these wooden thorns and his wood release wood thorns was like the difference between the physique of the American Team Rogers and the Hulk. But even so, the existence of these wooden thorns was enough to prove some things. When he threw away the blood-stained wooden thorn in his hand, he saw Coulson, who almost lost his right hand. Coulson was still in a suit, but at this time, there was a huge wound of more than 20 centimeters on his right hand. Although it had been through some simple bandaging and treatment, blood still gushed out of the bandage. Beside Coulson, there were 2 other figures that he was familiar with, Cuirassier Melinda May and Grant Ward. "You'd better give me a satisfactory answer, otherwise you know the consequences." Rog's tone was as cold as his face at this time. "I only learned about these things today. There was an accident in the experiment, and the experimental body was out of control. Shield will give you a satisfactory answer, but before that, I hope you can help deal with the experimental body that is out of control for the sake of those innocent people," Coulson said weakly. A lot of blood loss made his face extremely pale, and the severe pain from the wound also made obvious sweat appear on his face. "What qualifications do you have to make conditions with me now? Do you really think I won't dare to attack Shield?" As soon as his voice fell, Rog came to Coulson in an instant, grabbed his neck with his right hand, and lifted him up. Chapter 145. May and Ward didn't expect that Rog would actually do it. At the moment when Rog lifted Coulson, they stepped forward at the same time, ready to attack Rog to rescue Coulson at any time. However, before they could do anything, They were bounced out by Rog's sudden burst of chakra coat. In addition to giving Rog super defensive abilities, chakra coat can also be used to attack enemies. As long as one's own chakra control level reaches a certain level, it is not difficult to control the released chakra to attack close enemies. For example, Crown Prince Ming and the like can even condense chakra into an arm to help make meatballs directly. It's Natasha. Coulson grabbed Rog's right arm with his intact left hand and struggled to speak. Before Coulson finished speaking, Rog increased the strength of his right hand, turning his face into the color of a pig's liver. If you lie one more time, I'll break your neck right now. Rog can't read minds, but he can be 100% sure that Coulson is lying. Natasha did have some close contact with him, but it is absolutely impossible for Natasha to give his cells or other genetic samples to S.H.I.E.L.D. Natasha doesn't have such courage. And Natasha knows very well what can be done and what can't be done. In S.H.I.E.L.D., Natasha is definitely the one who knows Rog's bottom line best. She doesn't have the courage to do something that will directly cause Rog to go berserk, and she won't do it. And if it was provided by Natasha, then S.H.I.E.L.D. would have gotten his cells a few years ago, and they wouldn't have waited until today to start the research. It's the body of the intruder on the helicarrier, and the body of the Leviathan. Coulson has dealt with Rog many times, so he knows that Rog is really angry. If he doesn't tell the truth, Rog will definitely not hesitate to break his neck. S.H.I.E.L.D. does have a confidentiality agreement, but it also depends on what the confidentiality is. When Coulson finished speaking, Rog released his right hand. Coulson once again enjoyed the beauty of breathing freely. Then in the next second, he fell directly to the floor under the influence of gravity. I will deal with the thing outside. When I come back, you and Nick Fury better give me a satisfactory answer. After that, Rog left the office building without looking back. S.H.I.E.L.D. is the typical representative of courting death. After the New York battle, Rog thought that S.H.I.E.L.D. would be a little more restrained. As a result, in just a few months, these guys made a new move. Last time, it was because of the unlimited energy in the Tesseract. This time, it was because of his wood release. In S.H.I.E.L.D.'s view, Rog's wood release is easier to control than the magic cube. After all, Rog is a living example. Moreover, the attack and defense abilities displayed by wood release are more in line with S.H.I.E.L.D.'s needs. The infinite energy represented by the magic cube can improve the technological level of the entire world, and its development prospects are broader. But the research of the magic cube is obviously much more difficult than the research of wood release. What's more, they have now completely lost the magic cube. But Rog's wood release is different. It is a power that can be used perfectly on humans. If they could master the secrets of wood release, S.H.I.E.L.D. would be able to create their own team of extraordinaires. The existence of the Avengers let the whole world see how powerful a team of transcendence is. After the New York battle, S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't the only company that was interested in transcendence again. After leaving the office building, Rog went directly to the roof of a nearby building and began to use chakra perception. He didn't know what kind of life energy signs S.H.I.E.L.D.'s experimental subject had. He could only determine where the experimental subject had gone by perceiving all the humans nearby. With his current location as the center, it spread out little by little. After spending some time, Rog finally found S.H.I.E.L.D.'s so-called out-of-control experimental subject. Unlike what he imagined, the experimental subject didn't leave here immediately, but went directly to a chain restaurant a few blocks away. When Rog came to the restaurant and pushed open the door, he immediately smelled a strong smell of blood. When he perceived the experimental subject before, he had already noticed that something was wrong. In his perception, there were no signs of life in the entire restaurant except for the experimental subject. Of course, a chain restaurant can't have no customers, and even if there were no customers, there would be at least a minimum of service staff. As he expected, when he pushed open the restaurant door and entered, he saw a scene similar to the lobby on the first floor of the office building. More than a dozen corpses were scattered around the restaurant, and the wooden thorns on the corpses clearly showed the cause of their death. Next to a table near the restaurant bar, there was a middle-aged man in white clothes with wooden thorns all over his body. The middle-aged man looked up at Rog, and then put his eyes on the food in front of him. Like a beggar who had been hungry for days, He crazily stuffed the hamburger in his hand into his mouth. In just a few seconds, the man finished the hamburger in his hand, and then picked up a steak that had not been cut at all. The man ate frantically, and the food that filled the whole table disappeared at a terrifying speed. Rog didn't disturb the man's eating. He just silently came to the opposite side of the man, and sat down directly. A few minutes later, when the man finished eating all the food on the table, he raised his head again, and looked at Rog in front of him with a strange look. Rog and the man didn't speak, just looked at each other silently. "Are you the masked man? I've seen the video of your battle with those aliens, and it was wonderful. But I'm stronger than you." As soon as his voice fell, the man's right hand suddenly attacked Rog. From Rog's point of view, he could clearly see a wooden thorn gushing out of the man's palm, stabbing towards him like a sharp blade. However, just as the sharp wooden thorn was about to pierce his neck, an arm made entirely of wood emerged from his left shoulder. In just a moment, the wooden arm grabbed the man's right hand, and the two palms clenched together like fists. When his right hand was grabbed by the wooden arm, the man didn't hesitate and immediately stretched out his left hand. As soon as he raised his left hand, a piece of wood as thick as an arm also gushed out of Rog's right shoulder. When the wood that gushed out of Rog's right shoulder reached the man, the wood suddenly split into two, turning into two arms. One of the wooden arms pressed the man's left hand, and the other directly pinched his neck. "No, you're not strong at all." Chapter 146. I'm better than you. He didn't know if this guy with wooden thorns all over his body had eaten too much and lost his mind. How could he say something like that? To Rog, it sounded like Yamato saying to Hashirama, "My Mokuton is better than yours." No, this guy was far from even Yamato's level. For better or for worse, Yamato is an elite Umbu ninja from his roots, and the wood release he uses is a proper wood release, not some fancy tricks. Tell me, what's with these pieces of wood? At first, he thought that S.H.I.E.L.D. had gotten his cells or other biological samples from somewhere, and then made a copy of him. But when Coulson talked about the helicarrier and the dead Leviathan, he was already sure that S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't make a copy of him. The wooden thorns that killed the helicarrier and the Leviathan were indeed grown from his body when he performed the cutting technique. But there was absolutely no way that those wooden thorns had his cells or biological samples on them. After removing the ninjutsu, these wooden thorns wouldn't even have chakra on them. Sayura. The man was just about to say something uncivilized when he felt a sharp pain in his hands, the pain of being pierced directly by wooden thorns. Answer whatever I ask. If you can't do it, I'll let you experience what they've experienced. Under Rog's control, wooden thorns more than 10 centimeters long grew from the palms of the two wooden arms and directly pierced the man's hands. The best way to deal with uncivilized people is to let them immediately experience the consequences of being uncivilized. Cultural education wasn't something that Rog liked. What he liked was to educate others through physical means. It only took a few times to make it unforgettable. It's S.H.I.E.L.D.'s experiment. They made me like this. After being taught a lesson, the man decisively chose to cooperate. Be more specific. However, Rog wasn't very satisfied with his answer. Therefore, he made the wooden arm grow a wooden spike that was more than 10 centimeters long. I have had superpowers since I was a child. I can control the growth of plants. Later, I used vines to kill a few people, and I was caught by S.H.I.E.L.D. I was locked up in a special prison until a few months ago when they took me out and injected me with a special drug called seed. In the beginning, I could only grow plants like grass and vines on my body. They injected me with several different seed potions, and then I was able to grow wood from my body. However, this ability is sometimes very unstable, so sometimes these wooden thorns will come out of my body on their own. The man quickly explained. After he finished speaking, he looked at the small wooden thorns on his hand. Your superpower is to control the growth of plants, but the energy required for the growth of plants cannot be produced out of thin air. How did you do it? Even when he used wood release, he had to consume a large amount of chakra to achieve the effect of controlling the wood or making it grow. The man in front of him didn't have any special energy in his body. Just eat. After they injected me with the so-called seed potion, My appetite became better and better, and my stamina became a lot better. Every time I let the wood grow out of my body, it will consume a part of my stamina. As long as I have stamina, I can continue to let my body grow wood. Growing wood from the palm, then inserting the wood into other people's bodies, and finally letting these wooden thorns grow out of other people's bodies. They also taught me. But later, I watched your video and realized that they also learned from you. Let me tell you, those people from S.H.I.E.L.D. are really not good people. I think you should be like me and kill them until they bleed all over the ground. That way, they will be afraid of you and won't have any ideas about you. He didn't know if this guy was a chatterbox or if he felt that Rog would no longer hurt him. He began to chatter and even began to give Rog advice. I'm so cooperative, it's not right for you to kill me. And we're barely the same kind, aren't we? Yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't a good person. But you're not a good person either. After that, Rog didn't continue to talk nonsense with this man, and wooden thorns grew out of his 3 wooden arms at the same time. When these wooden thorns entered the man's body, they grew out of the man's body again, causing a painful death effect similar to the cutting technique. The man didn't expect that Rog would actually do it, and in a way that he was very familiar with. It turns out that growing wooden thorns in the body is really painful. You want to take revenge on S.H.I.E.L.D., that's fine, but you shouldn't have done it to the people in the restaurant. As soon as his voice fell, Rog and the man disappeared from their seats. When he left with the flying thunder god, the sound of sirens became clearer and clearer outside the restaurant. Half an hour after returning to the office building with the body, Rog finally saw Nick Fury. Rogers, who was wearing a shield, and Hawkeye Barton, who was carrying a bow and arrow, also appeared with him. Rog this time. As soon as Nick Fury opened his mouth, he was interrupted by Rog. You only have one chance, think about it before you say it. Rogers and Hawkeye Barton didn't know what was going on. They just received an urgent notice from Nick Fury, and then they came here together in a Quinjet. After hearing Rog's cold tone at this time, they finally knew why Nick Fury had to ask the two of them to come together. We do intend to replicate your ability to manipulate wood through experiments. I don't deny this. The experimental order to conduct the research was given by me, and I know that this violates our original agreement. So if you want to do it, I can understand. However, I don't think there's anything wrong with my order. We won the Battle of New York, but that was a victory for the Avengers, not for S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. needs power, and only with power can S.H.I.E.L.D. better protect the world. Nick Fury said with a righteous face, and he didn't think there was anything wrong with S.H.I.E.L.D.'s approach. Ha 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 ha. As expected of S.H.I.E.L.D., who is responsible for protecting the world, you are always so righteous. You never feel that there is anything wrong with your approach. You always feel that the world needs your protection to be safe. Who do you think you are? You really think you are the messenger of justice who maintains peace? Rog stood up directly and went straight to Nick Fury. Chapter 147. As long as one wasn't a fool, they could easily see that the current atmosphere was very wrong. When Roger came in front of Nick Fury, Rogers of the American team also stepped forward and said to Roger, "If you have something to say, we can talk slowly. There's no need to fight." Rogers didn't know Rog very well, but he had seen how Rog fought before. Therefore, he was certain that once Logue made his move, no one here could stop him. Unlike Captain America, who took the initiative to step forward, Hawkeye Barton took a step back silently, then clenched the recurve bow in his hand. Hawkeye was a very pure agent, so in his opinion, Rog was obviously making a big deal out of nothing. Although Nick Fury wasn't a good person in general, what he did was to protect the world. This was what Hawkeye Barton was thinking at this time. The thoughts of a senior S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Rog didn't speak, just looked at Nick Fury with cold eyes. And Nick Fury didn't show the slightest sign of giving in, so he stood upright in front of Rog. "We didn't copy your cells, nor did we make a clone of you. We just used the wood you left behind to develop a new type of medicine. If you feel that our behavior offended you, we can make appropriate compensation." At this moment, Coulson's voice suddenly sounded. Coulson, who had finished dealing with the injury on his arm, walked in. May and Ward were still with him. Behind him was a 20-person S.H.I.E.L.D. Special Forces team. A fully armed S.H.I.E.L.D. Special Forces team. Rog ignored Coulson, and he would never accept S.H.I.E.L.D's so-called compensation. If he accepted S.H.I.E.L.D's compensation, then S.H.I.E.L.D. would only become more and more excessive in the future. This time, they dared to have ideas about his would release. Then next time, they would dare to have ideas about his chakra. In the end, they would even dare to have ideas about him. Some things, once you give in, can no longer be reversed. In order to prevent this from happening, the best way is to cut off their hands as soon as they have the intention to reach out. If you dare to reach out with your left hand, I'll cut off your left hand. If you dare to reach out with both hands, I'll cut off both. You can't touch what you shouldn't touch. You'd better not have any ideas about what you shouldn't have. Don't you want my power? No problem, I'll satisfy you. Rog finally spoke. His tone was calm, but anyone could tell that he definitely didn't mean to share his power with S.H.I.E.L.D. As soon as Rog finished speaking, Nick Fury's right hand grabbed the pistol at his waist. However, before he could pull the pistol out of the holster, he felt an intense pain that penetrated his heart. Chi. In the blink of an eye, dozens of 10-centimeter-long wooden thorns grew out of his right arm, piercing his skin, destroying his muscles, and breaking the bones in his hand. When Nick Fury's right hand became unrecognizable, people realized that Roger's left hand was pressing down on his shoulder. This is the power you want. As soon as Rog's voice fell, the wooden thorns on Nick Fury's right arm grew crazily again. Bang! The crazily growing wooden thorns instantly broke Nick Fury's entire right arm. Minced meat and bright red blood splattered everywhere. Just as Nick Fury's right arm was completely broken by the wooden thorns, a pale blue light visible to the naked eye emerged in front of Rog, blocking the splashing flesh and blood. Crazy, really crazy. Although everyone knew that this matter would be difficult to resolve. But no one thought that Rog would so decisively destroy Nick Fury's entire right arm. That was Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., the most powerful Secret Service organization in the world. Without anyone's order, after discovering that Rog destroyed Nick Fury's right arm in this cruel way, the Special Forces soldiers behind Coulson immediately raised their weapons and pointed their guns at Rog. As long as Nick Fury or Coulson gave the order, they could immediately shoot Rog into a hornet's nest. It has to be said that these Special Forces soldiers had good ideas. But they didn't realize what kind of existence they were facing now. When they raised their weapons, Rog glanced at them casually. Then, these Special Forces soldiers fell to the ground as if they had lost their souls. Sharingan Genjutsu. A group of ordinary people can't resist the Genjutsu of Sharingan. In just a moment, these Special Forces soldiers fell into the Genjutsu world constructed by Rog and lost consciousness. From now on, the agreement is invalid. If you want revenge or to regain your face, just come at me. Rog, will take it all. After that, Rog ignored Nick Fury, and even ignored Team America, who was ready for battle, and Hawkeye, who aimed their bows at him, and directly left with the Flying Thunder God. The good relationship with S.H.I.E.L.D., from this moment on, was completely over. But Rog didn't have any regrets. S.H.I.E.L.D. is indeed very strong. And it can even be said that it is the strongest Secret Service organization at present. But so what? If it really comes to the point of no return, he can guarantee that the one who dies must be S.H.I.E.L.D. When it comes to fighting, he is really not afraid of anyone. Although Nick Fury's right arm was destroyed by him, in the next few days, Rog did not suffer any attacks from S.H.I.E.L.D., not even those deliberate difficulties on the surface. Days passed, and everything seemed to have returned to its original state. But a month later, he suddenly received a black business card with an octopus-like logo. He was no stranger to the octopus-like logo on the business card. This is the symbol of Hydra. The business card suddenly appeared in his office, and neither Sky nor Erica knew who sent it. Even the closed-circuit television happened to have some small accidents at that time, and did not capture any useful pictures. Boring desire to show off. Rog certainly knows why Hydra's people sent business cards in this way. They just want to tell him that they are strong and can enter and leave his office at will. In this regard, his answer was to throw the business card directly into the trash can. It was up to them whether they wanted to appear or not. They were just an organization without much strength. What was the point of pretending to be a wolf? After dealing with this trivial episode, Rog left the office with the Flying Thunder God, and came to Dr. Connor's experiment. After postponing the planned date again and again, Dr. Connors finally derived the last key data and successfully restored Richard's super spider equation. Chapter 148. After transmitting to the laboratory, Rog did not go directly to Dr. Connors, but came to Punisher Frank. Go and prepare a set of professional anti-eavesdropping devices and a new hidden monitoring system. The equipment the company is running now is not good. Some cockroaches have mixed in. Professional matters should be left to the professionals. And Frank the Punisher was such a professional. In terms of fighting power, Punisher may not be as good as Abomination Bronski, but in terms of practicality, Abomination is not as good as Punisher. What did it mean to be a professional tool? A Punisher was it? No problem, give me a day. Although Punisher only knows how to fight and kill most of the time, he has many special channels that Rog does not have. It is not difficult for him to get a set of professional eavesdropping and monitoring equipment. After instructing Punisher, Rog found Dr. Connors, intending to see the final version that Dr. Connors had developed. Richard is really a genius. His method of using a specific gene locking equation is perfect. When Rog arrived, Dr. Connors took out a few mutant spiders and then opened his right sleeve. I improved my own equation according to his equation, and the effect was better than I thought. My right hand is really restored. It's not a temporary recovery, it's a real recovery. The whole biological tissue structure of the right hand has been completely stabilized and will no longer disappear because of the disappearance of the serum effect. Dr. Connors waved his right hand excitedly at Rog, and his face showed a childlike look of joy. The dream that he had longed for all his life was finally realized. This wonderful feeling could not be described in words. I saw it, but this is not what I want. After spending so much time and money, what Rog wanted was not a serum for severed limb repair. What he wanted was Super Spider Serum, the kind that could turn people into Spider-Man. Of course, I'm ready for what you want, but there's one thing I need to tell you in advance. Because Richard's equation is based on genes, the equation developed now has not been tested on normal human beings. I conducted some animal experiments, and the results were similar to the calculated data. However, humans are different from animals after all. Whether the serum can take effect in the human body, or whether there will be any side effects after it takes effect, I'm not sure yet. After saying that, Dr. Connors brought out a transparent box that was 1 meter square. The rat inside is a test subject that has been injected with the Super Spider Serum. Although it can't spit silk like a real spider, its strength, speed, sensitivity, cell vitality, self-healing ability, and a series of other data have undergone a qualitative change. If it was released, it could become the king of rats in New York. No, the king of rats in the entire world. Dr. Connors said excitedly. Looking at the test subject in the transparent box that was so flexible that it didn't look like a lab rat at all, Roger slowly said, I gave you a blood sample last time. Have you figured out the matching equation? The blood sample Rog was talking about was of course not his blood sample, but Gwen's. He had no interest in becoming Spider-Man. And compared with Spider-Man's superpowers, aren't ninjutsu and Kekkai Genkai more delicious? It's done, but it's still the same sentence. This serum is specifically matched with genes, so it hasn't been tested on humans yet. I'm not sure what the final effect will be. Dr. Connors didn't know who the blood sample was, but he knew that it was a woman's blood sample. Under normal circumstances, there was no problem with this serum. After all, Dr. Connors just modified the part of the matched genes inside to another person's. However, scientific experiments have their own buff of uncontrolled experiments, especially those that have not been tested on humans. For example, a certain big green guy was born in this way. Is there any way to skip the part of human experiments to determine the effect, or directly use experimental data for accurate simulation? It was an immoral thing to risk Gwen directly, so he would never do it before determining the effect of the serum. Yes. In my previous laboratory, there was such an instrument that could conduct computer simulation of biological experiments. I mean my lab in the Osborne group, not the one in the sewers. But even if I use that instrument for simulation, I need detailed data of the experimental target, the more detailed the better, and the simulation is always only an experimental data, which does not represent the results of the real human experiment. The simulated experimental data is always just the simulation effect. No one can guarantee whether the real experimental results will be the same as the simulated results. I'll deal with the instrument and data. You continue to check the equation. I don't want any problems with the equation. Do you understand? There is only one Gwen in the world, which means he has only one chance. If the experiment fails, his plan to create Spider-Gwen will fail completely. After continuing to communicate with Dr. Connors for a few minutes, Rog returned to the office with the Flying Thunder God. He didn't need to do it himself to get the experimental simulation instrument out of Oscorp. This kind of heavy work, there is Abomination. At most, he can give Abomination a few more shadow clones, which is enough to face any situation. 3 days later, the famous Oscorp building suffered a serious violent invasion. A large number of laboratories were destroyed, including the laboratory of Dr. Connors, the former head of the Interspecies Laboratory. When Dr. Connors saw Abomination with the experimental simulation instrument, his eyes were not on the experimental instrument, but on Abomination. This kind of body, this kind of power, this is simply the perfect masterpiece of the Creator. In the eyes of others, Abomination is like a monster. In the eyes of Dr. Connors, it is as moving as an angel. Is that why he has no interest in my lizard serum? But compared with this beautiful creature in front of me, my lizard serum is really nothing. The Abomination had never seen Dr. Connors before. When he saw Connors walking towards him with a longing expression and gently stroking his arm, he suddenly had the idea of directly smashing Dr. Connors to death with the instrument in his hand. No, I have to endure. This guy is also someone Rog found. If he kills him, Rog will be very angry. However, this guy's perverted behavior really made people very unhappy. Chapter 149. Abomination's tolerance led to Dr. Connors' insatiable appetite. After stroking Abomination's right arm, Dr. Connors was still not satisfied and set his eyes on Abomination's steel-like abs. No, I can't stand it. This dead pervert, According to Abomination's previous style, he would give Dr. Connors a hard punch to let him know that there are some things that can't be touched. But after thinking of Rog's would release, Abomination had to forcibly suppress the anger in his heart. When Dr. Connors' right hand was about to touch Abomination's abdominal muscles, Abomination decisively stepped back a few steps, and then put the experimental instrument in his hand in front of him. The handover is complete and he will leave immediately. Without any hesitation, Abomination turned and left. As he strode away, Abomination did not forget to shake his right hand that had been touched by Dr. Connors. Disgusting, extremely disgusting. After watching Abomination leave, Dr. Connors stuck out his tongue and licked his lips like a lizard. Fortunately, Abomination has left at this time. If he saw this scene, even with Rog's suppression, he would not be able to help but beat Dr. Connors. At worst, he would be taught a lesson by Mu-Run afterwards. At this time, Rog didn't know what was happening in the laboratory, because now there is a guy who is S.H.I.E.L.D. on the surface, but is actually Hydra coming to his office. Hydra was waiting for Rog to take the initiative to contact them, but they didn't expect that their carefully prepared business cards were thrown directly into the trash can by Rog. After waiting for a few days in vain, they had to change their plan and take the initiative to come. Now sitting in front of Rog is Brockrum, captain of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Quick Reaction Special Forces. Of course, compared with this identity on the surface, his other identity is a little more famous. Hydra's Crossbones. You dare to come to me directly as Hydra? It seems that you are going to end your hibernation. This is not the first time Rog has dealt with Rum. They have met a few years ago. But at that time, Rum was still an ordinary Special Forces member. At that time, Rum's Special Forces received a mission to capture Rog. The result of the mission was obvious. Rum and the others failed and lost nearly half of their men. It was also because of their failure that the Black Widow Natasha decided to take action personally. Nick Fury is already old. He can't see the future of the world, just like he can't see your true personality. Since he dared to use the identity of Hydra to find Rog, Rumlow is naturally prepared for everything. The worst result is nothing more than him ending his lurking in S.H.I.E.L.D. ahead of time. At this point, even if he ended his concealment early, it was no longer important. What Hydra needed to prepare, they have already prepared 70 to 80% of it. As for the rest, they were just icing on the cake. Come on, what is the famous Hydra looking for me for? I don't think my small private military company can help Hydra. Hydra does more espionage operations. Even if it is an assassination operation, it is only targeted at some ordinary targets. This kind of task can be easily done by Hydra himself. There is no need to find him. No, you look down on yourself too much. Don't say that you are the masked man. Just some of the things in your hands are already valuable. For example, the Abomination Bronski, the Undead Punisher, and the Iron Man armor with its own energy. And as far as we know, Dr. Lizardman Connors, who gave Oscorp a headache some time ago, is now in your hands. Rog was not surprised that Hydra was able to investigate the Abomination and Punisher. After all, they often appear in public. But Hydra was able to investigate Dr. Lizardman and Mark III, which surprised him a little. Since rescuing Dr. Connors from Oscorp, Dr. Connors has not left the secret laboratory. As for Mark III, he has not worn it once. Even S.H.I.E.L.D.'s people didn't know that he had a set of Mark III with its own energy in his hands. Interesting. Although you said so much, if I'm not wrong, what you want should be Tawny's Iron Man armor. Among the 4 things proposed by Rum, the one that best meets Hydra's current needs is Iron Man's Iron Man armor. In particular, the Battle of New York has shown the world the power of the Iron Man armor. However, since the Ironmonger incident, Tawny's protection of the Iron Man armor has increased by several levels. In addition to Colonel Road wearing a set of Mark II and transforming it into the Iron Patriot, only Rog has a set of Mark III in his hands. But only he and Tawny know about this. What we want most now is the Iron Man armor, but we are also interested in the Abomination, Punisher, and Lizardman's biotechnology. If you are willing to give us the Iron Man armor for a few days to study, or provide these 3 biotechnology, we will give you an unimaginable return. Although Hydra has never officially contacted Rog before, this does not mean that they know nothing about Rog. Since Rog's sudden appearance in New York a few years ago, especially after he defeated S.H.I.E.L.D's several arrests, Hydra began to secretly investigate his information. On the surface, Rog seems to be a person who doesn't have much pursuit of money, power, and beauty. But after careful analysis by the psychologists inside Hydra, they can basically determine that Rog is just relatively well controlled. Simply put, he is not pure and simple, he is just a little bit boring. Hydra is not worried about Rog's greed and lust because they have enough strength to satisfy Rog, which is one of the reasons why Rum is so straightforward. Just name your price and Hydra will lose if they can't satisfy you. It seems that you are very confident. I can't give you the Iron Man armor. This is a matter of principle. As for the biotechnology you mentioned, it's not impossible to give you one. However, I'm afraid you won't be able to give me what I want. Although he doesn't know what went wrong, causing Hydra to think that the Punisher's immortality is some kind of biotechnology, Rog has no intention of explaining this to them. Just say it. What do you want? Rum said with great confidence. I want the obelisk, which is the first 084 item in S.H.I.E.L.D. Chapter 150. Obelisk? What is that? As the captain of S.H.I.E.L.D's Quick Reaction Special Forces, Rum certainly knows what the code number 084 means. But the problem is that he has never heard of the obelisk at all. Do you just want the obelisk? If it's just an item of 084, then I don't think there's any problem at all. Although he doesn't know what the obelisk is, Rum doesn't think it's a big problem. Isn't it just an item of 084? Just give it to him. First of all, this is not an ordinary item of 084, it's the first item of 084. Secondly, I think you'd better give feedback to the people above you. It's not as simple as you think. Looking at Rum's indifferent face, Rog knew that this guy didn't know what the obelisk meant. In that case, I can give feedback to the people above. But I want to know, if we give you the obelisk, what can you give us? I can lend you Abomination for a few days, or give you 5 copies of Dr. Connor's lizard serum. Mark III and Punisher don't need to think about it. One is a matter of principle, and the other will involve some of his secrets. Although even if Punisher is handed over to Hydra, they may not be able to study anything, but it's always right to be careful. Are there only these two? Rum or Hydra? What they want most is Tawny's Iron Man armor. If they have Tawny's Iron Man armor, they can reverse engineer a lot of good things with their technological level and research and development level. Tawny's Iron Man armor is not just a weapon, but a systematic technological product. Weapon system, power system, flight system, operating system, arc reactor. Any system on the Iron Man armor has an incomparably broad application scenario. If used well, the Iron Man armor can even directly improve Hydra's overall technological level. Now I can only choose one of the two. If you have more things that interest me, I can give you both directly. Rum left Rog's company. Although he didn't get the Iron Man armor he wanted most, the research opportunity of Abomination and Lizard Serum were also good gains. Of course, the prerequisite for all of this was that they could obtain the obelisk. After Rum left, Rog picked up the phone on the desk and called Sky and Erica into his office. From today onwards, Erica, you're responsible for teaching Sky how to fight. Erica had no objection to Rog's arrangement and directly nodded in agreement. But Erica's agreement didn't mean that Sky would agree too. I don't want to. I'm a hacker. I don't need to learn fighting. Sky directly rejected Rog's proposal. You have no right to refuse unless you can beat me or Erica. In addition, learning how to fight is also to allow you to see your parents as soon as possible. Although Sky's hacking skills weren't bad, the Shockwave Girl Sky was the role she should play in the future. When he asked Hydra for the obelisk, he had already made the decision to let Sky awaken as an Inhuman ahead of time. Although he was still dissatisfied, Sky agreed in the end. As long as she could find her parents, let alone learning how to fight, she could even join S.H.I.E.L.D. He didn't know if it was because Hydra didn't get the obelisk, or if they felt that the obelisk was more valuable than what Rog had given them. After Rum left, Hydra never contacted Rog again. Rog didn't care about this. The obelisk can awaken Sky as an Inhuman, but it's not the only way. Even without the obelisk, he has other ways to get the Terrigen crystal. Hydra didn't contact Rog again, and Rog didn't bother to pay attention to these guys who were doomed to fail. A week later, Rog received a message from Dr. Connors. The spider serum suitable for Gwen has completed thousands of simulation tests without any abnormal reactions that should not have occurred. After the Flying Thunder God came to the laboratory, Rog took a finger-sized syringe from Dr. Connors. Although it has undergone enough simulation tests, I still have to say, use it with caution. Rog nodded, then left the laboratory and returned to his office. After returning to the office, Rog sat in a chair without saying a word. More than 10 minutes later, he called Gwen. What should be faced must always be faced. More than an hour later, in a Chinese restaurant that had just opened a few months later, Rog saw Gwen dressed particularly well. Why did you ask me to dinner so suddenly? Gwen asked. Rog helped Gwen pull out the chair, then returned to his seat and said, Let's eat first, then we'll talk about it. Gwen looked at Rog suspiciously, and then she found that they were the only two guests in the restaurant. After enjoying a pure Chinese meal with Gwen, Rog said to Gwen, I asked you out tonight to tell you my true identity. In addition to being the president of an internet company and a logistics company, I have other identities. As soon as Rog finished speaking, Gwen replied, I know. Your real identity is actually the president of a private military company. My dad secretly investigated your identity and told me to stay away from people like you. Is there something wrong? That's not what I want to say. Yes, I also have a private military company, but that's not the point. After a pause for a few seconds, Rog continued. Do you remember the Avengers I told you about before? Captain America, Iron Man, Masked Man, and so on. Remember, you also asked me what I thought of these superheroes. Gwen's tone became a little excited. For girls of her age, superheroes and so on have their own charm aura. I am the Masked Man, Rog said directly. You, Masked Man? If it weren't for the serious expression on Rog's face now, Gwen would definitely think he was joking. Yes, I am the masked man. After that, Rog directly used the psychic technique to summon the 3 Tomo mask and thunder round fan. These things should be able to prove my identity more or less. After seeing Rog summon the mask and thunder round fan in a strange way, Gwen was stunned. Although there have been many people imitating the Avengers in the world since they were exposed. More than once, Gavin had seen those imitators with round fans and masks wandering around the streets. But after all, they are just imitators, not the real masked man. Rog is the real masked man. Chapter 151. Gwen looked at the mask and round fan that Rog put aside, and silently looked at Rog for a while. Then she asked, "Can you fly?" "No," Rog replied directly. "But when you fight aliens, you can fly." Gwen pointed to the round fan on the side and continued to ask, "It's just the round fan that can fly. I just stepped on it. I can't fly." Although the development of things was somewhat different from what he expected, he still explained patiently, "Don't worry, haste makes waste." "No. Why do I want to eat hot tofu?" "Then can you fly once for me to see?" Gwen seems to be particularly interested in the issue of flying. Here, although there are only 2 of them in the restaurant, it is obviously not a good place to fly. Go outside. Although Rog doesn't know what Gwen wants to do, he doesn't mind meeting Gwen's small request. Outside the restaurant is a busy street, which is not a suitable place to fly, so Rog took Gwen directly to the rooftop of the restaurant. "How do you know you can come up here? Why are there no waiters in the restaurant?" After following Rog to the roof, Gwen asked in confusion. "I bought this building and the restaurant is mine. I let them get off work early." After that, Rog threw the round fan in his hand out. Under his control, the round fan that was thrown out drew a beautiful arc in the air, and then flew back to him. "Do you want to experience it?" Roger went straight to the top of the circular fan, then turned his head and asked Gwen. Gwen came to the round fan excitedly. Before she could turn around, she was picked up by Rog. "If you stand like this, it's easy to fall." After that, Rog directly controlled the round fan to fly out. In order to take care of Gwen's feelings, Rog did not let the round fan show the extreme flying speed, but like a surfboard in the sea, he kept passing from the roofs of the buildings. Although Rog can't swing around the buildings like Spider-Man, he can do a more exciting flying experience. Since the round fan started flying, Gwen involuntarily hugged Rog's neck, nervous like a person who is afraid of heights sitting on the most exciting vertical roller coaster. "Do you want to experience something more exciting?" After flying for a few minutes between the buildings, Rog asked Gwen. At this time, although Gwen didn't answer Rog, she nodded firmly. Since Gwen wants to play, then play with her once. The round fan began to fly high, and the buildings in New York began to shrink rapidly. At the same time, Roger wrapped himself and Gwen with his chakra coat. To him, this height did not affect him in any way. But Gwen is different, she is just an ordinary person. After flying to a height of thousands of meters, the round fan stopped climbing and suspended in the air. Just as Gwen was about to ask Rog, Rog suddenly jumped forward and left the round fan directly. Under the influence of gravity, Rog and Gwen began to fall rapidly in a free-falling state. Along with them falling together, Gwen screamed at an alarming frequency. The real extreme bungee jumping only needs to be experienced once, and it will be unforgettable. The small New York began to grow rapidly, and the buildings that were originally just a bright spot became clearer and clearer. Looking at the ground getting closer and closer, Gwen's hands also hugged Rog's neck harder. 500 meters, 300 meters, 100 meters, 50 meters. Just after Gwen closed her eyes nervously, the strong sense of weightlessness suddenly disappeared. "You can open your eyes now." After hearing Rog's voice, Gwen opened her eyes and looked around in confusion. When they were about to fall to the ground, Rog's flying thunder god teleported to the top of a building with a flying Thor technique, safely ending this high-altitude extreme bungee jumping trip. Do you superheroes usually play so crazily? After being put down by Rog, Gwen patted her chest with lingering fear. Bungee jumping is already a thrilling thing, let alone this kind of extreme bungee jumping with no protective measures. It's okay, what we usually do may be a little more thrilling than this. I've just experienced it and I've played with it, so it's time to get to the point. In fact, I asked you out tonight. In addition to telling you my true identity, there's another thing. After that, Rog took out the syringe that was only the size of a finger. What's inside is a strengthening serum, and it's a strengthening serum specially configured for you. After the injection, you will have strength, speed, and agility beyond ordinary people, and you will have some super perceptive abilities that you can't imagine. Simply put, after the injection, you will also become a superhero. Rog raised the syringe in his hand and said solemnly, "After the injection, I can become a superhero?" Yes. As soon as Rog finished speaking, Gwen raised her right hand and wanted to take the syringe in his hand. Wait a minute, there are some things I need to tell you in advance. This serum is specially made for you, so it has not been subjected to any human experiments. You have also interned at Oscorp for a while, so you should understand what this means. Moreover, once you become a superhero, it will mean that you will say goodbye to the life of ordinary people. You may think that becoming a superhero is a particularly cool thing now, but the truth may be completely different from what you think. I was going to secretly inject you, but I still think it should be up to you to make this decision. After making sure that Gwen had completely understood, Rog handed her the syringe in his hand that could change Gwen's fate. Why did you make such a strengthening serum for me? Or, why do you want me to be a superhero? After taking the syringe from Rog, Gwen looked up at Rog and asked very seriously, "Because I need you. I need a superhero, Gwen." Rog also replied very seriously, "You need me?" "Yes. I need you." After hearing Rog's affirmative answer, a smile appeared on Gwen's face. Then, she directly inserted the syringe into her left arm. "I believe you." Rog thought that Gwen would think about it for a while before making a decision, but Gwen gave him a direct answer with practical actions. Chapter 152. You trust me so much? It has to be said that Gwen's decisiveness scared Rog a little. Were all young girls these days so bold and daring? Times have really changed. Intuition. I believe you won't harm me. And if you don't want me to know with your ability, you can do it without me knowing. You respect my choice, so I believe in you. After speaking, Gwen threw away the syringe that had been used, with an aura of everything under her control. Rog did not speak, but sighed slightly helplessly, and then said, "In the future, don't trust others so easily. For example, I am not the kind of superhero you imagine. Strictly speaking, I am not even a hero, let alone the kind of superhero who will save the world. I believe in my intuition." For Rog's reminder, Gwen didn't seem to take it to heart at all, and there was some excitement in her tone. Can this serum really make me a superhero? I don't seem to feel it at all. Just when Gwen began to doubt whether the injected serum was effective, a feeling of exhaustion that seemed to come from the depths of her soul suddenly came up. I take back that sentence just now. Before she finished speaking, Gwen fell forward as if she had lost all her strength and fell into Rog's arms. "I'll be fine after a nap." This was the last sentence Gwen heard before she lost consciousness. Looking at Gwen, who had completely fainted in his arms, Rog began to struggle. Should I send her home? Although he knew the specific address of Gwen's house, if he sent the unconscious Gwen directly home, Gwen's parents might have some inexplicable ideas. So for the sake of safety, and to avoid some unnecessary trouble, he decided to take Gwen home, back to his home. Rog guaranteed with his own personality that this was really just to avoid unnecessary trouble in the future. After sensing the flying Thor at home, Rog and Gwen disappeared directly from the rooftop. After bringing the unconscious Gwen back to his home, Rog carried Gwen directly to his bedroom. Then he left Gwen alone in the master bedroom. A little white dragon in the waves who was good at galloping on horseback would not take advantage of others when they were in danger. This was a matter of principle. After confirming that Gavin was only unconscious because of the effect of the serum, Rog went to his study and began to design a battle suit for Gavin. He said that he was designing the battle suit, but in fact he was just redrawing the battle suit that already existed in his mind. The battle suit was mainly white and black. The upper body was mostly white, while the lower body was black. The elbows and the inside of the arms were a classic red spider web design. The headgear was also mainly pure white, but the outline of the eye sockets had been changed to red stripes. In addition to the color being different from the other spider suits, this spider suit belonging to Gavin also had a hood. The outer layer of the hat was also white, while the inner layer was in the form of a red spider web. After drawing the sketches of the battle suit and noting the body's data, Rog sent the designs to Erica and asked her to make as many arrangements as possible. After doing all this, Rog used chakra perception to sense Gwen's current life energy state, and then came to the guest room. The master bedroom was given to Gwen, so of course he could only sleep in the guest room. The night was silent. Early the next morning, before Gwen got up, Rog specially prepared a large breakfast. If he remembered correctly, after being bitten by the mutant spider, Peter Parker showed a behavior of eating a lot to replenish his energy. It's better to be prepared than not to be prepared. After preparing breakfast, Rog did not go to the master bedroom to wake Gwen up, but came to the living room and played Berserker's Creed that he had not yet cleared. He just used chakra perception to sense Gwen's state, and found that Gwen had gotten up and was now washing in the bathroom. Just after he completed an assassination mission, he heard footsteps coming from the side. Following the sound of footsteps, he turned his head and saw a scene that made his heart beat faster, even though he had been on the battlefield for a long time. After washing up, Gwen came to the living room, but at this time, she was not wearing yesterday's clothes but Rog's white shirt. The shirt that was just right for Rog was obviously much looser and bigger on Gwen, and it was directly worn with the effect of disappearing under the shirt. Long blonde hair with water droplets, a loose white shirt, slender and straight legs. Rog felt that his rationality seemed to have begun to show signs of turning into a beast. He looked at Gwen standing aside, looked at the game controller in his hand, and then turned to look at Gwen. For a man, this choice should not be difficult to make. Breakfast is on the table. I will finish the level in front of me first. After that, Rog once again put his eyes on the screen in front of him, and his fingers pressed frantically on the game controller. After hearing Rog's words, Gwen was stunned for a moment. After seeing that Rog really put all his attention on the screen, she suddenly became angry. Not long after waking up, Gwen guessed that this should be Rog's home. After discovering this, she was a little happy. However, after finding that she was still wearing yesterday's clothes, her good mood disappeared in an instant. After washing up, he changed into a new set of clothes, only to receive such a reply from Rog. "You humph." Gwen snorted with dissatisfaction, then turned and walked towards the bedroom. Breakfast? Who would be in the mood to eat breakfast now? Gwen, who turned and walked towards the bedroom, did not find that Rog, who had always rejected the game, had silently opened Sharingan at this time. The process of the plot was directly skipped. The enemies were all killed. After opening Sharingan, Rog showed a far better game level than usual. When the last target character was killed, he directly teleported to the bedroom with the Flying Thunder God. It was not until his figure completely disappeared that the game controller fell to the floor. More than an hour later, Rog, who had changed his clothes, and Gwen appeared in the dining room and ate the breakfast that should have been finished more than an hour ago. "Do I need to eat so much in the future?" Gwen frowned and asked. She found that her appetite at this time had seriously exceeded her usual level. But even so, she still didn't feel full. "No. It's just for a few days, and it will return to the original situation later." After getting a positive answer from Rog, Gwen slightly put down the fear of becoming fat, and enjoyed the breakfast carefully prepared by Rog. Chapter 153. Wait, isn't there something wrong? After a few minutes, Rog realized that there seemed to be something wrong with the scene just now. It should be that she hasn't galloped for a long time, so her reaction was a little slow. But fortunately, Gwen didn't seem to notice this. After breakfast, Rog sent the Flying Thunder God to his office and introduced Gwen to Sky and Erica. Erica, on the other hand, didn't react. She simply looked at Gwen curiously. Sky, on the other hand, showed an I knew it look. Rog chose to ignore Sky's malicious smile. "She's just a kid, don't worry about her." Later, Rog Flying Thunder God again. and took Gwen to the warehouse where Dr. Connors' laboratory was located. Gwen? Why are you here? Dr. Connors is no stranger to Gwen. When Gwen was an intern at Oscorp, she interned in his laboratory. Dr. Connors? After seeing Dr. Connors, Gwen also showed a shocked look. Several months ago, Oscorp announced that Dr. Connors died unexpectedly because of an experimental accident. It was because of this that Gwen ended her internship at Oscorp ahead of schedule. That's a bit complicated to explain. I'll tell you slowly later. The serum you injected yesterday was developed by Dr. Connors. Now is not a good time to explain the grievances between Dr. Connors and Oscorp, so Rog interrupted their conversation in time and directly ended the topic that would be long once they talked about it. In addition to Dr. Connors, Frank the Punisher and Bronsky the Abomination were also in the warehouse at this time. After introducing the Punisher and the Abomination, Rog took Gwen to a building near her home. You haven't been back all night. Go back and say you're safe. I'll come back to you in the evening. After saying goodbye to Gwen, Rog once again teleported to Dr. Connors' laboratory. Taking Gwen to the company and coming to this warehouse was just to let Gwen officially enter his life circle. As for the rest, there would be time to slowly introduce it to Gavin in the future. After returning to the laboratory, Rog went directly to Dr. Connors and went straight to the point. First of all, thank you for your hard work during this period of time. Later, I will ask Frank to give you a Swiss bank note as my small gift to you. Now that Gwen has injected the spider serum, there is no need to continue to limit Dr. Connors here. From a personal point of view, he was very grateful for the doctor's efforts during this period of time, so he intended to give freedom back to Dr. Connors. Doctor, if you're willing, you can leave right away. But before you leave, I will leave a curse mark on your tongue. This curse seal won't cause you any harm. It's just to ensure that you won't leak out any secrets related to me. For example, the formula for the spider serum, and the identity of Gavin and me. After saying that, Rog paused for a few seconds before continuing. Normally, I shouldn't threaten you at this time, but you should also understand the importance of these secrets. The best way to make someone keep a secret was to send that person to meet the Grim Reaper, because only dead people will never leak secrets. But to Dr. Connors, who had helped him, Roger could not do such a thing as burning the bridge after crossing the river. In any case, Dr. Connors helped him complete a small dream, so if it wasn't necessary, he would never do that. Since he can't kill Dr. Connors, he can only use other ways to ensure that Dr. Connors doesn't leak secrets. And at this time, it's time for the system to perform. There are all kinds of fancy ninjutsu in the system, and one of them is called the Seal of Tongue Calamity Isolation Seal, which is very suitable for his current needs. The Seal of Tongue Calamity Root is a special seal used by Konoha Pot King Danzo to bind his subordinates. By engraving the curse seal on the target's tongue, the target can't say any secrets related to himself. Once there is such an idea or plan to do so, the target will be paralyzed, unable to speak, and unable to move. Actually, I don't intend to leave here. If you allow me, I want to study the abomination, Bronsky. I can be a member of your team, as long as you are willing to cooperate with my research on the abomination. Rog thought that Dr. Connors would refuse, but he didn't expect that Dr. Connors would be willing to stay on his own initiative. And the reason for staying is the abomination. If I remember correctly, they just met some time ago, right? Did something happen between them? Or is it because of the attraction of the same color? The green-skinned abomination and the green-skinned Dr. Lizard. It seems that they really may be attracted to each other. While waiting for Rog's consent, Dr. Connors looked at the abomination in the corner of the warehouse, and then stretched out his long tongue with obvious lizard characteristics, and licked his lips. After witnessing Dr. Connors' inadvertent move, Rog thought of a mixed-gender character with the same fanatical scientific research spirit. Well, okay. If you need, I can let the abomination cooperate with your experiment. But the premise of the experiment is that you can't threaten the safety of the abomination's life, nor can you cause serious psychological trauma to him. He has been stimulated before, so his psychological endurance may be a little fragile. Rog agreed to Dr. Connors' request, and the addition of Dr. Connors can also make up for the team's technical disadvantage. As for the abomination, Rog doesn't think he will have any opinions about it. After dealing with the issue of Dr. Connor's departure, he returned to his office with the Flying Thunder God and thought about what to do next. Although Gwen has been injected with spider serum, there is still a long way to go before she becomes a real Spider-Gwen, so she still needs to be trained a little. But before that, he had to prepare all the equipment that Gavin needed. For example, battle suits, cobweb launchers, etc. The battle suits have been handed over to Erica and should be done soon. The cobweb launcher is a little more troublesome because the launcher needs to be remade. As for the sticky solution in the launcher, Oscorp just happens to have the right one. It seems that someone will have to go to Oscorp again. The last time it was the Abomination who went to get the instrument, so this time it will be the Punisher. Rog feels that he likes Oscorp more and more. Chapter 154. The matter of the spider web mucus is easier to solve, but for the launcher, you need to find a professional. Although Dr. Connors has the title of a doctor, he is only good in the field of biotechnology. Spider web launcher, a typical technological product, is obviously not within his research scope. Fortunately, Rog happens to know a friend who is very good in the field of mechanical technology. If there are difficulties, look for Tani. As long as it is something related to mechanical technology, looking for Tani is the right thing to do. After dialing Tani's phone and explaining the purpose of the call, Tani simply agreed. For Tani, the difficulty of creating a spider web launcher is similar to that of a toy in a middle school student's science and technology handicraft class. Although Tani agreed to Rog's request, he also made a small request to Rog. If there is a chance, he would like to see Gwen. Tani has known Rog for a long time, but he has never seen Rog so concerned about a girl. The nature of curiosity and gossip is not limited to girls. For Tani's small request, Rog had no reason to refuse and agreed directly. Anyway, Tani will see Gwen sooner or later, especially after Gwen really becomes a Spider-Woman. In the afternoon, Erica came to Rog's office with a cardboard box. Inside the cardboard box was the spider suit that Rog specifically asked for last night. This is the only benefit left in the capitalist society. As long as you are willing to spend money, efficiency is not a problem at all. Not to mention just a piece of clothing. Even if you want the main battle tank of the UA military, they will get it in the shortest time and then pack it up and send it to your home. The commissions for these days will be postponed for a week. If someone disagrees, cancel his order directly. After a few months of continuous efforts, Konoha Private Military Company has thoroughly established a foothold in this industry, and has also made a lot of reputation. With the increase of fame, more and more customers have come to commission. But up until now, only Rog, the Punisher, and the Abomination had carried out the mission. The Punisher will go to Oscorp in the next few days, and the Abomination will cooperate with Dr. Connors to do some experiments. As for Rog himself, he had to complete Gavin's training as soon as possible. Therefore, for the next week, the Wooden Dummy Private Military Company would be in a situation where there would be no combatants. But even so, Rog had no plans to expand the company. What he wants is an elite organization like the Akatsuki, not the existence of a large number of people like the hidden villages. When the night came, Rog and Gavin appeared together in a Western restaurant that had just opened a few months ago, but had already become quite famous. After entering the restaurant, Gavin found that there were no guests here, just like the Chinese restaurant last night. "Is this also your restaurant?" Gavin asked thoughtfully. "Yes. I don't like to eat in restaurants that are too noisy, so I opened my own restaurant." Rog has several restaurants like tonight's Western restaurant, each of which focuses on a different category. For example, tonight's restaurant is dominated by classic French dishes. Is every superhero rich, such as Iron Man Tony Stark? Gavin changed the subject and continued to ask. No. In fact, having no money is a common phenomenon among superheroes. Like Tani, he is a different kind. That being said, if superheroes want to make money, it's still easy. For example, the hero dolls and figurines that sold like crazy some time ago. Whether it's licensing or endorsement, as long as superheroes want to make money, a lot of companies will contact them in the first place. However, These superheroes don't seem to have a high desire for money. There are very few people like Rog who have always been eager for money. Be a common man, greedy for money, lustful and righteous. This is the state of life that Rog wants. From the current point of view, he feels that he is doing quite well. At least he has not deviated too far from this life trajectory. When Gavin's delicate face became a little red because of the red wine, Rog ended the good French dinner and took her back to his home. Then he took Gavin to his custom-made training room. This training room is not big, only 70 or 80 square meters. Although the area is not large, it is still very suitable for initial training. Change into this suit. After handing the black and white spider suit to Gavin, Rog returned to his room and changed into a comfortable sportswear. When he came to the training room again, he saw Gavin, who had changed into the spider suit. Except for not wearing a hood, Gavin is now perfectly in line with his imagination. This is Spider Gavin. After calming down a little, Rog came to Gavin and said seriously, "Although you have been injected with the spider serum, you have not fully adapted to the power of the serum, and you have no combat experience. So, before you go out to save others, I will do some basic training for you." Good. Gavin didn't say anything and directly agreed. Growing up in a police family, she has a chivalrous heart since she was a child. If it weren't for her father's strict opposition, she would even become a righteous policeman like her father in the future. After watching various fighting videos for more than 10 or 20 minutes with Gavin in the training room, Rog said to Gavin, "Now let's start the formal training." As soon as the voice fell, Rog took the lead in launching an attack. Although Gavin has no combat experience, the extraordinary physique and reaction given by the spider serum still made her instinctively resist. Rog has no intention of teaching Gavin fighting techniques. With the spider serum, Gavin doesn't need to learn those things. She just needs to be familiar with her current strength. Letting her watch the fighting videos was just to let her have a rough understanding of what close combat was all about. Attack, block, counterattack. As time went by, Gavin's movements became more and more agile, and the speed of her attacks became faster and faster. Under Rog's intentional control, Gavin quickly adapted to the extraordinary power brought by the spider serum, and began to have the momentum of a superhero. But there is one thing he can't control. In order not to hurt Gavin, he didn't use any ninjutsu or weapons. Even chakra is not used too much. But this kind of close combat fighting is destined to have a lot of intimate physical contact between them, especially when both of them had drunk red wine. As a result, the atmosphere of the battle began to subtly change. The place of the battle gradually evolved from the training room to Rog's bedroom. This night is destined to be a restless night. Chapter 155. Happy days always pass very quickly. It has been almost a week since Rog started training Gavin. In this week, Gavin has changed from a person with no combat experience to a person who can fight with Rog. Of course, the premise of all this is that Rog does not use ninjutsu and genjutsu. Anyway, after this week's personal guidance, Gavin has met all the prerequisites to become a superhero. In general, everything is similar to Rog's plan. Except for the cobweb launcher he asked Tani to make. A week ago, he asked Tani to make a pair of cobweb launchers suitable for Gavin, and he made some small suggestions about the cobweb launcher. Then, he received a pair of cobweb launchers that seriously exceeded his expectations. The cobweb launcher made by Tani is bracelet-shaped as a hole, with an interface to change the cobweb mucus at any time, and a variety of cobweb launch modes are set up. Rog only wanted an ordinary, pure cobweb launcher. But Tani obviously didn't take his suggestion to heart. So he received a cobweb launcher with a variety of cobweb launch modes built in. In addition to the conventional cobweb launch, this pair of cobweb launchers also have rapid fire, electric shock cobweb, bouncing cobweb, separating cobweb, cobweb grenades, and a series of launch modes that he hasn't figured out yet. Regardless of whether these cobweb launch modes are useful or not, it's always right to install them first. This cobweb launcher, which is obviously from the mind of a boy in science and engineering, made him think of the spider suit that Tani designed for Spider-Man in the future. The cobweb launcher was built by Tani, and the cobweb mucus was built by Dr. Connors. To be precise, It should be improved by Dr. Connors on the basis of the viscous solution invented by Oscorp. After testing, the cobweb solution improved by Dr. Connors has a super high tensile resistance, and its load-bearing performance is also very good. Even the existence of abomination, which is amazing, can swing around the building through the cobweb without worrying about the cobweb breaking. There were still a few hours before night fell, but Gavin was already eager to try. If it weren't for Rog's insistence that she only set off at night, she wouldn't have been able to hold back her excitement and would have started her first righteous patrol. Gavin waited excitedly for the night to come, while Rog browsed the latest news of Oscorp in his study. He didn't know if Oscorp was in a serious state of reverse recently. A few days ago, the Punishers visited Oscorp, and 2 days ago, they experienced a serious violent invasion. And according to Oscorp's announcement, the violent invasion 2 days ago was a premeditated vicious invasion. The violent invaders also stole several combat armor prototypes that Oscorp was developing. However, Oscorp did not release the stolen prototype data. Not even the least pictures were released. Since the official debut of Tawny's Iron Man armor, combat armor has become the research and development goal of many large groups. Although Oscorp's main focus is in the field of biotechnology, it does not mean that they are ignorant of the field of mechanical technology. With Oscorp's financial resources and research and development level, it is not difficult to develop several combat armor. Rog was not interested in what armor Oscorp lost. He just didn't want these armors to have any impact on Gavin's novice mission. After thinking about it for a few minutes, he decided that it was better to be steady. After nightfall, Spider Gavin set off. But what Gavin didn't find was that not long after she set off, a shadow clone followed her silently. After all, Gavin is still a newcomer, although she has enough power to protect herself and can easily deal with those conventional criminals. But the problem is that this is New York. In this city, anything can happen. When Gavin started her first superhero action, Rog also began to attack the last few levels of Berserker's Creed. Time passed little by little, and just when Rog thought that Gavin's action tonight would draw a perfect end, he suddenly received feedback that the shadow clone was lifted. It's really what you're afraid of. After sensing the Flying Thor technique on the spider web launcher, Rog directly left the living room with the Flying Thunder God and teleported to Gavin's side. As soon as the teleportation ended, he saw a scene like a battlefield, and Gavin, who was breathing rapidly. At this time, Gavin was standing on the top of a building, looking down at the street below. Following Gavin's gaze, you can see a 3 or 4 meter tall steel creature. To be precise, it's a steel rhinoceros with machine guns and missile launchers hanging on its body. At first sight of this guy, Rog recognized his identity. Rhinoceros Alexei Sisevich. I'm a rhinoceros. I said I would come back. After using the machine guns on the rhinoceros armor to penetrate 5 or 6 police cars in front of him, Alexei took the initiative to open the armor on his head and shouted excitedly at the police opposite him. Relying on the powerful firepower of the armor, Alexei forced the New York police officers to retreat. Behind Alexei, there were 7 or 8 punks who were also wearing rhinoceros headgear. These punks kept going in and out of the bank next to them, throwing bags of US dollars into the heavy trucks that had been prepared. Boom, boom, boom. Alexei, wearing the rhinoceros armor, blocked all the police alone, and the small missiles fired by the armor directly turned the police cars that came to support into fireballs. Ha 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 ha, New Yorkers fear this is the power of the rhinoceros. After saying that, Alexei once again started shooting like a madman. Da-da-da-da-da-da. You did a good enough job tonight, leave the guys below to me. As soon as the voice fell, Rog summoned the 3-tomo mask and the Kusanagi sword. Then he jumped directly from the top of the building. You dare to hit my woman, you're really tired of living. To some extent, Rog is a very protective person. And protective means that he will give extremely cruel retribution to those who hurt the people he cares about. Under the influence of gravity, Rog came in front of Rhinoceros Alexei like a meteorite falling from the sky. Then, under the gaze of everyone around, he directly cut off the right arm of the rhinoceros armor. Lightning release, Thousand Birds blade. Chapter 156. In the blink of an eye, the right arm of the rhino armor, who had just been arrogant, was immediately cut off. It wasn't until the rhinoceros armor's thick metal right arm fell to the ground with a dull thud that everyone finally realized what had happened. A white mask with 3 tomo and a katana wrapped in electric current. He is the Masked Man. The Masked Man of the Avengers. Although strictly speaking, Rog is not a member of the Avengers. But in people's hearts, he is a member of the Avengers. Although this misunderstanding has been deeply rooted in people's hearts, Rog and the Avengers have no intention of explaining. Misunderstanding is misunderstanding. Anyway, it's not a bad thing. How dare you lay your hands on my woman? Rog is very angry now, very angry. He couldn't bear to hit Gwen too hard during training, but this damned rhinoceros man injured Gwen during her first operation. Although Gwen was not hit by bullets and missiles, he clearly saw the scene of the Rhino Man hitting Gwen through the feedback of the shadow clone. Your woman. Alexei's IQ is not high, otherwise he would not have taken his men to rob a bank not long after he got the rhino armor. So he couldn't react for a while. Who was the woman Rog was talking about? Alexei didn't answer Rog, or rather, he couldn't remember who Rog was talking about. Even a few minutes ago, he had just hit Gwen, and he didn't think of this. Alexei stood there in a daze, but Rog didn't intend to be in a daze with him. He raised his katana and cut off the other arm of the rhino armor. Clang. When the other metal arm was cut off, Alexei finally remembered something. You're talking about that woman, the woman who jumps around like a spider. Alexei said loudly, and then Roger raised his hand and slashed down again. This time Rog cut the left leg of the rhino armor. Bang! Without the support of its left leg, the gigantic rhinoceros armor fell backwards without any suspense, coming into close contact with the ground. The rhino armor developed by Oscorp looked very powerful, but in fact, it was not even comparable to Obadiah's Ironmonger. Not to mention Tani's Iron Man armor. Although Ironmonger was not very strong, Ironmonger could at least fly, and it used the arc reactor as a power source. From a technical perspective, the rhino armor is at least several levels behind Tani's Iron Man armor. The difference was even greater than the difference between an ordinary production car and an F1 racing car. Oh, looks like you've remembered. After saying that, Rog cut off the horn of the steel rhinoceros that was half the height of a man. Alexei tried his best to control the rhinoceros armor, trying to stand up again, or use the armor's weapons to repel Rog. However, Rog did not give him the chance to do so. The Kusanagi sword entwined with lightning constantly slashed across the rhinoceros armor, destroying the weapons attached to the rhinoceros armor one by one. Later, under the watchful eyes of the people and the live news camera, Rog stepped onto the rhinoceros armor that was lying on its back. If you just robbed a bank, I would have beaten you up at most, and then handed you over to the New York police. But you did something that I can't forgive, so. Before he finished speaking, Rog raised the Kusanagi sword in his hand, and then inserted it straight down. The size of the rhinoceros armor is far larger than that of a normal person, which means that the controller inside will be perfectly wrapped inside the armor. Although it is impossible to see the inside of the armor, it is easy to guess where Alexei's limbs are in the armor by inferring from the position of Alexei's head. This sword strike is because you sent her flying. The Kusanagi sword entwined with lightning pierced Alexei's left shoulder with great precision. A strong tingling and severe numbness caused by the electric current instantly spread throughout his body, and at the same time, he completely lost the ability to move his left arm. This sword is because you put me in a bad mood. After pulling out the Kusanagi sword that pierced Alexei's left shoulder, Rog used the same method to pierce his right shoulder. Even if Alexei was a felon who returned to prison as if he was going home, after experiencing the pain twice in a row, he couldn't help but scream. It wasn't until this time that Alexei's companions finally reacted. They took out their weapons and aimed at Rog, who was standing on the rhinoceros armor. For these gangsters who didn't even have a name, Rog didn't even have the interest to kill them. When these gangsters pointed their guns at Rog, they saw a pair of blood-red eyes with 3 tomo. Sharingan Genjutsu. Just for a moment, these gangsters seemed to have suffered indescribable severe pain. One by one, they held their heads and then made tragic cries of pain. Don't expect your companions to come and save you. They don't care about you now. After that, Rog pulled out the Kusanagi sword that pierced Alexei's right shoulder, and then pointed the tip of the sword at Alexei's forehead. No. You can't kill me. Oscorp asked me to do it. You can't kill me. Looking at the Kusanagi sword that was only a dozen centimeters away from him, Alexei said quickly, Oscorp. Alexei's plea for mercy succeeded in winning him a chance of survival, and it also made Rog think of a less humane way to test weapons. Actual combat test. For weapon developers, there is an embarrassing problem that they don't want to face, but they have to face it. That is, what kind of performance will the developed weapons show in a real battlefield environment? Generally speaking, there are only two solutions to this problem. The first is to use complex experiments to simulate all the bad situations that may be encountered on the battlefield, so as to test the performance of weapons in these extreme environments. This method is much more humane and relatively scientific, and it is the method used by most weapon developers at present. However, no matter how complex and scientific the simulated environment is, it can never replace the real battlefield. And the high cost of testing is not something that every weapon developer is willing to bear. Therefore, there is a second test method, actual combat test. The developed weapons are provided to small mercenaries or some special people for free or at a low price, so that they can conduct real combat tests, and finally recover these test results. As for the safety of the tester's life, it is not in their consideration at all. As far as Rog knows, there are many unknown small mercenary teams that have accepted such an actual combat test commission, and then inexplicably died on an unknown battlefield. Generally speaking, the second test method is only used by small weapon developers, or those who can't afford to pay for it. There is no need for such a behemoth like Oscorp to use this method. But judging from Alexei's current appearance, what he said should be true. Oscorp, it seems that it is not as simple as he thought. Daring to conduct an actual combat test of weapon-type armor in New York, this kind of courage is not something that ordinary people can have. Chapter 157. After going back, let Sky investigate Oscorp. Maybe there will be unexpected gains. After seeing Rog stop for a while, Alexei finally breathed a sigh of relief. Although he doesn't look very smart, that doesn't mean he's really stupid. At some point, he has a wit that is completely inconsistent with his appearance. Just when everyone thought that Rog was going to hand over Alexei, who had no power to fight back, to the police, the Kusanagi sword in his hand flashed with thunder and lightning again. Let him go. Log had never thought of it that way. Although the information given by Alexei is still valuable, it is far from enough to let him go. And with one less unstable factor like Alexei, New York will be safer. Alexei in the rhino armor watched the Kusanagi sword entwined with lightning again. And then before he could say anything, the Kusanagi sword pierced his head. When Alexei said Oscorp, he was destined to say goodbye to his life. The only difference was who did it. After solving Alexei's episode, Rog went directly back to the top of the building with the flying thunder god, and then returned home with Gwen. You did a good job tonight, but you're a little inexperienced. It's not your fault that the Rhino Man caused collateral damage. Superheroes are not gods, and they can't protect everyone. It's not a good sign for a newcomer like Gwen to encounter this kind of situation for the first time. But when Gwen took off the white hood on her battle suit, Rog felt that his comfort just now seemed a little superfluous. Gwen not only didn't have the slightest loneliness and unwillingness, but she also looked unsatisfied. I'm fine, don't forget, I grew up in a police family, Gwen replied with a smile. After seeing Gwen's appearance at this time, Rog finally felt relieved. He was afraid that Gwen, after having the power beyond ordinary people, would not intuitively regard saving others and the world as her obligation, and eventually become the so-called savior with the mentality of everything I do is for the whole world. That's right, he was referring to S.H.I.E.L.D., represented by Motherf * Kerfocker. You want to save the world, but have you asked for the world's opinion? Maybe the world doesn't even want you to save it. How do you know what they're thinking isn't? Destroy, hurry up. Taking the initiative to help others when they were in need or in danger was a hero. When others didn't need it at all, forcefully helping others for their own good or self-righteously. That wasn't called a hero. That was called shameless. When Gavin took off his battle suit and returned to his room to rest, Rog came to the company with the Flying Thunder God and went directly to Sky's office. Although it was already late at night, for a hacker girl like Sky who liked to stay up late at night was the time when they were the most active. The lights in Sky's office were off, and the screen was the only source of light in the room. Through the screen, he could see Sky's little head. She didn't know if it was because Sky was too engrossed or because Rog's footsteps were too soft. When Rog came to Sky's side, Sky didn't even notice his arrival. Rog thought that Sky was invading some secret department again, but after seeing the page displayed on the screen, he couldn't help but frown. Sky was now logged into an anonymous communication and posting website. The name of the website was simple and crude. Who is the Masked Man? Since the Avengers officially appeared, guessing the true identity of the Masked Man has become a new way for people to pass the time. Rog had heard of the website, Who is the Masked Man, before. Among the many websites that used his identity as a gimmick, this website was worthy of being the first, and the only one that had been interviewed by Fox News Channel. It had the most registered users, the most posts, and the most bizarre users: a disfigured woman, a biohuman secretly studied by the government, a Zatari who abandoned the dark, an alien who didn't want to show his face. Some people even said that he was the reincarnation of President Roosevelt's soul, and provided a lot of seemingly reliable evidence. Rog wasn't surprised that Sky would log on to this website. What he didn't expect was that Sky was the administrator of this website. Looking at Sky using the account with the highest administrator authority to reply to all kinds of irresponsible posts, and pin the posts that speculated that he was a woman one by one, he knew that this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. What is this, the head of the anti-fans? My subordinate is the head of my biggest anti-fans. Rog felt like he had seen this situation before. At this time, Sky was still replying to all kinds of speculation posts. The speed of her fingers typing on the keyboard was even faster than Rog's sword dancing. This Masked Man is really shameless. He actually uses a mask to increase his sense of mystery. Too shameless. Rog glanced at the content of the post that Sky was replying to and said silently, "That's right. Everyone else has openly revealed their identities. Only he, Sky, who was replying to the post, instinctively replied." Then she realized that something was wrong. Without the slightest hesitation, Sky's right hand swiped across the messy desk, and a metal kunai that looked exactly like the Thor appeared in her hand. The next second, the kunai flew towards Rog. Her reaction was very sharp, and she was very decisive. But it was useless. Although Rog was right next to Sky and he didn't dodge, the kunai still seriously missed its target and hit the wall behind him. Then it was ruthlessly bounced away. "Why are you here?" After discovering that it was Rog, Sky closed the page and asked loudly, "Why can't I be here?" Rog answered calmly, "When did you get here? You just got here, right?" Sky paused for a moment and continued to ask, "When you pinned the post that suspected that I was a Japanese woman dressed as a man?" Rog continued to reply calmly, "You." Sky was silent, her hands crossed over her chest, looking like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. "Since you're so energetic, you shouldn't mind helping me check something. I want you to invade the central control mainframe of Oscorp. I want to know all the projects that Oscorp has been researching recently. If you need external hardware support, I can let the Punisher or Shadow Clone assist you." Of course, a small rhino armor couldn't arouse his interest. But after knowing that Oscorp might be conducting actual combat tests, he became interested in a bioelectricity project of Oscorp. Chapter 158. As a business giant that can compete with Stark Industries on military orders, Oscorp has a lot of strange research. And without exception, Oscorp's research has the possibility of weaponization and militarization. Although Oscorp has a lot of research projects, there are not many that can interest Rog, especially those that can help him now. In addition to Richard's mutant spider, the only thing that can attract his attention now is Max the Electric Man. But for the time being, he is not sure whether Max the Electric Man has been born. Unlike the rhino armor, which is a product of some pure purpose, the birth of Max the Electric Man was purely an accident. Max is a talented electrical engineer, and his design even helped Oscorp win a crucial New York power grid project. But unfortunately, Oscorp didn't pay attention to him and regarded him as a dispensable low-level employee. Until Max's birthday, he fell into a water tank with mutant electric eels. If Rog's memory is correct, that's how the Electric Man was born. But he's not sure now whether the Electric Man will be born as he remembers. If the Electric Man is born, then he doesn't mind having a pleasant lightning exchange with the Electric Man. If not, those mutant electric eels can also satisfy his curiosity a little. Rog is not angry. After finding that Rog was not as angry as she thought, several ideas came to Sky's mind. Then, she changed back to her previous fearless appearance. I can help you investigate all the research projects of Oscorp, but I want a reward, Sky suddenly said. Reward? What reward do you want? This is the first time Sky has offered a reward. After being reminded by Sky, Rog remembered that he never seemed to have given Sky any reward. In fact, not only Sky, but even Abomination and Punisher he didn't give any reward. However, he remembered that Erica would give them a huge sum of money every month as their monthly remuneration. It's better to give them a huge sum of money than to ask for their well-being. Simple and crude, but very effective. Tell me, what reward do you want? Since Sky has taken the initiative to ask this question, Rog doesn't mind fulfilling her wish. It's simple. I hope that you can be my combat instructor. Sky directly stated the reward she wanted, and then she heard Rog's decisive answer. No, I don't have the time. Change it to another one. Rog rejected Sky's request without hesitation. He could tell at a glance what Sky was up to. She felt that Erica's teaching was too strict, so she wanted to replace him as the coach. Then she could reduce or even end the training through his reluctance to lay his hands on women. Wasn't this little brat underestimating his intelligence? Rog seemed to have overlooked one point. Sky was actually about the same age as Gavin. Excuses, they're all excuses. Even if you don't have the time, don't you still have those shadow clones that can turn into smoke? Sky also decisively rejected Rog's proposal. You. Forget it. If you can find out the details of all Oscorp's research projects, I can let the shadow clone train you for a month. Looking at Sky's determined look, Rog chose to take a step back. It was better for the shadow clone to train Sky than for him to train her himself. After reaching a strange deal with Sky, Rog left the company and returned home. Before going to bed, he took the time to complete the last few levels of Berserker's Creed before returning to his bedroom. Berserker's Creed was cleared. What should he play next? Watch Cat, Rainbow Six, or Mysterious Sky Territory? Time flew by, and more than half a month passed unknowingly. Since encountering the unstable factor of the rhinoceros in the first operation, Gavin's following actions have been incredibly smooth. After half a month of continuous action, Gavin also successfully earned her own hero title, Spider-Woman. Just as Rog considered whether to guide public opinion and give Gavin a more pleasant hero name, Gavin herself was very happy to accept the title of Spider-Woman, and even accepted an informal interview for it. After a high-level fire rescue, since Gavin herself had no opinion, Rog was too lazy to make any small moves, and the two titles of the Masked Man and Spider-Woman were a good match. Gavin's side was going well, but Sky's side was in an unimaginable deadlock. More than half a month later, Sky cracked all the databases and firewalls related to Oscorp. Then she got a lot of useful and useless information and data. It was useful because what she investigated was confidential information about Oscorp. If she was willing to give this information to Oscorp's competitors, Oscorp would not fall to the bottom, but at least it would be badly hurt. But the problem was that this information had no significance to Rog. Through this information, he knew all the projects that Oscorp was now researching. However, he only knew the general idea and name of the project. As for the specific progress and research results of the project, he didn't see a word. Although it was very different from what he imagined, he did find something that interested him. on the feasibility and development of human capacitors, preliminary report on carbon-based bioelectricity, mutant electric eels biological structural reorganization test on humanoid creatures. There were many similar reports, but they all had only one report name and the submitted funding application. Oscorp's practice of guarding specific research reports made ROG think of Dr. Connors. When Dr. Connors was still honestly presiding over the interspecies genetic research project, Oscorp was not so cautious. However, ROG could still understand why Oscorp had become like this. Every now and then, a good company would be violently invaded by some people. And every invasion, something would be lost more or less. As long as Oscorp's management had not lost their minds collectively, they would certainly upgrade the corresponding security level. After more than half a month of trying, it was basically certain that the gentle and kind way could not get the desired information from Oscorp. Therefore, ROG intended to use his best and most skilled way to deal with this matter. Oscorp, you forced me to do this. If you had cooperated a little, I wouldn't have had to use this method. Thinking of the situation that Oscorp was about to face, ROG sighed helplessly. Chapter 159. After nightfall, 50 Loki, with antler helmets attacked all of Oscorp's research institutes. Whether it was those that everyone knew on the surface, or those that secretly seemed to have nothing to do with Oscorp. Although there was no specific information and progress of those research projects in the intelligence collected by Sky, it was not difficult to infer the location of these research institutes from this information. Especially when these institutes apply for research funds and equipment from Oscorp from time to time. After sending out the 50 shadow clones that turned into Loki, ROG waited in the office. While waiting for the shadow clones' feedback, he was not idle, but opened a game guide and browsed it. After clearing Berserker's Creed, he was thinking about which game to continue to play. After some careful and unreasonable consideration, he chose another game called Miyazaki Old Thief's Malice, Unparalleled Black Souls 3. Cutting the grass, don't be afraid, just do it. While ROG browsed the game guide of Dark Souls 3, Harry Osborn, the head of Oscorp, was escorted by a team of bodyguards to Ravencroft Psychiatric Hospital, far from downtown New York. Since half a year ago, Norman Osborn, the founder and chairman of Oscorp, was bedridden because of his family's genetic disease. Harry, who was only 20 years old, was brought back from school by Norman and took over the business empire with a market value of hundreds of billions of dollars. Relying on his own outstanding ability, Harry, who was only 20 years old, not only successfully controlled the company's elders, but also further improved Oscorp's market share. Now Harry Osborn is known as another young business leader after Tony Stark. The grievances between Stark Industries and Oscorp have once again become the focus of attention. However, in terms of personal charm, Harry has always been weaker than Tony. The title of superhero Iron Man gave Tony a huge charm bonus, and was the key to Harry's reputation never catching up with Tony. Although he can't become a superhero who saves the world like Tony, Harry doesn't care too much about it. Compared with superheroes, he prefers to be the one who controls superheroes. Led by the guards of the mental hospital, Harry came to a secret research room in the deepest part of the mental hospital. Mr. Osborn, long time no see. When Harry arrived at the secret laboratory, a man in a white coat and a pair of heavy glasses greeted him. This man was the head of the laboratory, Dr. Kafka. He was one of the top experts in the field of biological research. What's the current situation of the test subjects? Harry ignored Dr. Kafka's flattery and went directly to the central control room of the laboratory. Through the special glass in front of the central control room, Harry could clearly see the test subject, Electric Man Max, who was firmly bound in a special device. His blue body was like an electric current. His skin was almost transparent, and the blood vessels in his body were clearly visible. Streaks of electricity continuously flowed within this strange body, emitting a bluish-white light. On Electric Man Max's left temple, there was a small capacitance monitoring device that constantly recorded the intensity of the electric current in Electric Man Max's body. The overall condition of the test subject is stable. With the brainwashing technology provided by Hydra, we have been able to initially control the behavior of the test subject. Using military-grade biological stimulation electrodes and high-strength capacitors produced by the group, we have also completed the development of the test subject's ability. Dr. Kafka confidently reported the current progress. He had enough reason to be proud of being able to study a biological miracle to the current state of initial control. This kind of thing was not something that anyone could do. How is the progress of the replication test subject? When can we start the weaponization test? Harry didn't look back, his eyes still on Electric Man Max. The weaponization test can start at any time. As for the replication test subject, a suitable method has not been found yet. We have simulated the whole process of the mutation of the test subject, but we have never been able to reproduce the life form of the test subject. At this point, Dr. Kafka's tone became slightly weaker. After hearing Dr. Kafka's words, Harry turned his head and glanced at him blankly, then said with a little dissatisfaction, "Solve it as soon as possible." Harry didn't say what would happen if he couldn't solve it, but Dr. Kafka didn't dare to have the slightest carelessness. If he really couldn't solve the problem of replicating the Electric Man, then he wouldn't have to think about it in the future, or even think about any problems. The shorter the sentence, the more serious the situation was. Dr. Kafka hadn't been in contact with Harry for a long time, but he knew very well that this young man was more terrifying than those old foxes who had been in the business world for decades. In the past few months, Harry had sent more than one or two of the group's old men as test subjects. Those old men at the top of the group were self-conscious and didn't put the young Harry in their eyes. As a result, they were sent by Harry to accompany those mutant electric eels. This young man was very ruthless. A few minutes later, just as Harry was about to leave the laboratory, the guard in charge of guarding the psychiatric hospital suddenly reported a message. "Someone has invaded. It's the man who took Dr. Connors away last time." Rog didn't ask the shadow clone to secretly invade. Anyway, the shadow clone now looked like Loki. Even if Oscorp was dissatisfied, it was impossible to trace it back to him. If you have any opinions, go to Asgard to find Odin for feedback. If you can see Odin. Although the guards of the psychiatric hospital were pretty good, they were still too insignificant in front of Rog's shadow clone. Almost without wasting much time, the shadow clone broke through the heavy guards of the psychiatric hospital and quickly came to the laboratory. "The actual test target is here, let the test subject do it." Harry, standing in the central control room, gave orders unhurriedly. Compared with the nervous experimenters and guards around him, Harry was as calm as a person from another dimension. Dr. Kafka wanted to continue to say something, but when he saw the heavily armed guards being hit one by one like puppets, he went directly to a computer and entered a series of instructions. The next second, the special device that bound the Electric Man Max was opened, and the Electric Man wrapped in electric current slowly floated out. Chapter 160. Kill the Intruder. As soon as the Electric Man left the restraint device, he heard the order from Harry. The Electric Man floating in the air turned to look at Harry in the central control room, then landed directly on the ground, and the electric current on his body disappeared. After landing on the ground, the Electric Man didn't immediately attack and transform into Loki's shadow clone. Instead, he silently looked at his hands. It was the first time Electric Man Max had time to look at his current appearance since he fell into the fish tank, where the mutant electric eels were raised. He only remembered that the mutant electric eels attacked him one after another. Some of the mutant electric eels even swam directly into his body from his mouth. Pain, extreme pain. Electric Man Max couldn't remember what happened after that. The only thing he still remembers now is the extreme pain of his whole body being torn apart and reassembled again and again. When he woke up again, he was already in this laboratory and hung on the special restraint device like a mummy. In the following days, he experienced all kinds of inhuman experiments beyond his imagination. Until one day, several people in Hydra uniforms came to the laboratory. Later, in addition to those inhumane experimental tests, he also began the 24-hour brainwashing experience. When the brainwashing was over, The thoughts of revenge that had filled his whole mind completely disappeared. At this time, Max was no longer the mutant who hated Oscorp, but a weapon in the hands of Oscorp, a powerful biological weapon. After silently examining his hands and his current body, Electric Man Max raised his head to look at his doppelganger. Without any hesitation, Electric Man Max raised his right hand directly, and an electric current gushed out of his palm in an instant, like real lightning striking the shadow clone. Although the shadow clone is not the main body, the shadow clone can basically do what the main body can do. Except for a little weak resistance, the shadow clone can basically be equivalent to the main body. At the moment when Electric Man Max raised his right hand, the shadow clone also launched an attack at the first time. Lightning release, Chidori Sharp Spear. Electric Man Max's right hand and the shadow clone's right hand emerged with a strong current at the same time. The only difference is that the Chidori Sharp Spear in the hand of the shadow clone has a complete form. The current emitted by Electric Man Max maintains the original irregular form of the current. Sizzle. The electric current shot out by Electric Man Max instantly collided with the shadow doppelganger's Chidori Sharp Spear, producing a series of ear-piercing electric current sounds. Bang 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 bang. The irregular electric current was in a deadlock with the Chidori Sharp Spear. The electric current generated by the collision of the two kept striking the surroundings, making the originally dark laboratory suddenly brighten up. All kinds of metal instruments were hit by the electric currents that were running around. Then, without any suspense, they exploded and turned into fireballs. Compared to the devices that had exploded due to the electric shock, the guards close to the Electric Man Max and the shadow doppelganger were in an even worse state. If the metal instrument was hit, it would at most explode. However, if these guards were to be struck by the electric current, their lives would be taken away. When a few unlucky guards were instantly killed by the electric current, the remaining guards did not hesitate and retreated, no longer interfering in the inhuman battle between the electric figure and the shadow clone. Water release. Water iron cannon. When the Chidori Sharp Spear was blocked by the electric current shot out from the electric figure's hand, the shadow doppelganger raised its left hand and directly shot the electric figure. The water iron cannon's liquid bullet arrived in front of Electric Man Max at a speed faster than the speed of sound. Then it directly pierced through Electric Man Max's head. No, it was not pierced through. The moment the liquid bullet arrived in front of Electric Man Max's head suddenly changed from a stable biological form to a pure energy form. The liquid bullet flew into Electric Man Max's head and was instantly vaporized. Although the liquid bullet had an extremely strong penetrating power, in the end, it was just a ball of water condensed with chakra. While he was energizing his head, Electric Man Max didn't stay idle. He also raised his left hand. Just when everyone thought that Electric Man Max would use his left hand to shoot the electric current, Electric Man Max directly used himself as the center and erupted with an energy storm formed completely by lightning. When Electric Man had just unleashed the lightning storm, the shadow doppelganger had already planned to leave the laboratory with the Flying Thunder God. However, when the shadow doppelganger connected to the Flying Thunder God technique in the outside world, the shadow doppelganger directly gave up the idea of Flying Thunder God. I'm a person who has no feelings for information. Since the information is in my hands, then what happens next is none of my business. The shadow doppelganger must have the awareness of a shadow doppelganger. It must not steal the limelight from the original body. Thus, the shadow doppelganger ended the Chidori Sharp Spear in its right hand and allowed Electric Man's lightning storm to hit it. Bang! After being hit by the lightning storm, the shadow doppelganger turned into a cloud of smoke without any suspense. At the same time, it fed back the information it obtained to the original body. Rog, who was browsing through the unparalleled Onyx Soul strategy in the office, immediately received the feedback from the shadow doppelganger. Then he came to a conclusion. This shadow doppelganger had a lot of personality. If he could work less, he would work less. If he could be at the bottom, he would not be at the top. This lazy character was exactly the same as him. Harry, who had been expressionless, finally changed his face when he saw the intruder fighting with Electric Man Max turned into a cloud of smoke and disappeared. Although he didn't deal with Rog, he heard from Hydra that this kind of doppelganger would turn into smoke after being attacked. Rog, the masked man of Konoha Private Military Company. For ordinary people, the identity of the masked man is a secret. But for those who have enough channels, it's easy to know that Rog is the masked man. Harry Osborn happens to be such a person with enough channels. It was he who took Dr. Connors away. Is he targeting Oscorp? Is it a black dog? It's a bit interesting. The intruder was Rog's shadow doppelganger, so it should also be his shadow doppelganger who took Dr. Connors away from the laboratory. Dr. Connors had been handed over to Oscorp, and Dr. Connors had been taken away. Harry is not only no stranger to this kind of black dog routine, but he is also very familiar with it. When he first took over Oscorp, he used this method a lot. For a while, Harry had the idea that he was the same kind of person as Rog. Chapter 161. At this time, Rog didn't know that Harry had regarded him as the same kind. Now he is selecting the ninjutsu he needs from the system's exchange page. To be precise, it's a sealing technique. Electric Man Max was able to turn his body into energy, which meant that most of his attacks would not be able to do any harm to Max. However, this doesn't mean that he has no way to deal with the Electric Man. Since the enemy can energize his body, then he just needs to seal the opponent's ability. Energization is indeed a very difficult ability to deal with, but it's far from unsolvable. In the system's exchange page, there is a page dedicated to the exchange of sealing techniques. Susanoo Tatsuka Sword, Chibaku Tensei, 6 Paths Chibaku Tensei, Immortal Method Magnetic Release Rasengan, Immortal Method Bright God Gate. Looking at these exchange icons shining with golden light, Rog directly chose to ignore them. To deal with an Electric Man, he doesn't need these advanced goods. It didn't take long for him to choose the sealing technique he needed this time. 4 symbols seal, plus a King Kong seal that can both attack and defend. These 2 ninjutsu directly consumed 70 ninja coins, making his unconsumed ninja coins amount to 305. After the Battle of New York, he didn't slack off. Especially after accepting the commission from Oscorp, he executed the commission for several months in a row, making his unconsumed ninja coins amount to 375. The 2 ninjutsu only added up to 70 ninja coins. In general, this is a good and cheap exchange. After completing the exchange, Rog didn't go to Ravencroft Psychiatric Hospital immediately. Instead, he first practiced these 2 ninjutsu in the office before transforming into Loki and teleporting there. Although the ninjutsu used when he attacked may be recognized, the disguise still needs to be done. This is a matter of attitude. Regardless of whether this disguise is useful or not, he still needs to be cautious. Rog, who had transformed into Loki, arrived at the Thor teleportation point closest to Ravencroft Mental Hospital. Just as he was about to teleport to the mental hospital, he saw the Electric Man in a special battle suit flying out of the mental hospital. Electric Man Max had no intention of hiding his existence at all. He flew through the air in an arrogant manner, drawing a bright arc in the night sky at the same time. Where was this guy going? Rog thought that Electric Man Max was going to leave New York, but Electric Man flew in the opposite direction. Not only did the Electric Man show no signs of leaving New York, but he also flew directly to Times Square. Rog seemed to have guessed the guy's plan when he saw the Electric Man flying arrogantly across the night sky without hiding his tracks. Did he want to use a grand enough stage to announce his debut? Times Square was a famous neighborhood in New York. It was known as the crossroads of the world. It was a landmark with high popularity in the whole world. Appearing in such a place, as long as the next day was not the end of the world, it could basically be regarded as a scheduled headline for the next day's newspaper. Now that the destination of Electric Man had been predicted, Rog naturally did not need to follow him, and teleported directly to the top of a building near Times Square. After the teleportation, he also lifted the effect of the transformation technique on his body. Although he did not know why Max the Electric Man had done this, or what Harry Osborn had in mind. But since the other party wanted to play, he didn't mind playing with them. Without any hesitation, he psychically brought out his signature equipment. Wearing the 3-tomo mask, the thunder fan and the Kusanagi sword, Rog patiently waited for the arrival of Electric Man. It didn't take long for Electric Man, who had been showing off all the way, to come to the sky above Times Square. Then, under the watchful eyes of the public, there was a superhero-like descent. Boom! Like a bolt of lightning falling from the sky. It hit a deep pit on the ground. Then Electric Man, who was kneeling on one knee, slowly stood up and opened his arms to the frightened crowd in front of him. I, Electric Man, am on the stage. As he expected, after his appearance, the crowd that had gathered in the square suddenly dispersed and left quickly as if they were escaping a disaster. At the same time, the reporters who had been interviewing in the square also pointed their cameras at him. In the next second, the face of Electric Man, which was very different from that of human beings, appeared on the outdoor display screens around the square. Dozens of large and small outdoor displays around Times Square showed Electric Man Max's face at the same time. This experience, which even superstars may not have, made Electric Man Max feel a long-lost sense of importance and satisfaction. This feeling of being watched by the whole world is really cool. Although it was very different from the scene he had originally imagined, Electric Man Max was still very satisfied with the treatment at this time. Get down. Get on the ground right now. Raise your hands now. However, Electric Man Max's beautiful experience was quickly interrupted by the New York police around the square. In less than a minute, more than a dozen police officers rushed to the scene and pulled out their pistols from their waists and aimed at him. With the passage of time, more and more police cars rushed over. It didn't take long for more than a dozen police cars with sirens to surround Electric Man Max. The surrounding police officers kept warning Electric Man. After noticing that Electric Man showed no signs of following their warnings, these police officers threw a few smoke bombs at Electric Man. However, as soon as these smoke bombs that exuded irritating gas reached Electric Man Max, they were all knocked away by the electric current on his body. The moment the smoke bombs were bounced away, the surrounding police officers also pulled the triggers of their pistols and rifles. Bang 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 bang. Intense gunshots rang out, and hundreds of bullets flew toward the Electric Man faced with the police's attack. Electric Man did not have any intention of dodging. A dazzling electric light flashed around his body. The bullets that flew at high speed hit the electric light, and were instantly disintegrated. None of the bullets broke through this layer of dazzling electric light, and none of the bullets hit Electric Man's body. Now it's my turn. The moment the gunshots ended, Electric Man Max clenched his fists, and then swung them down hard. Boom! An energy storm composed entirely of electric current erupted with a loud bang. In the thunderous sound, a dazzling electric current spread in a circle, and the surrounding police officers and police cars were instantly sent flying by the electric current. Chapter 162. Although their positions are different, it has to be said that Electric Man Max's appearance is very impressive. With just a simple display of his superpower, the image of an insufferably arrogant villain was born. After Electric Man Max released Lightning Storm, the policeman who was thrown into the air struggled to stand up, and then quickly retreated for a distance. Since the Battle of New York, people all over the world have known that there are all kinds of monsters in the world besides ordinary humans. Aliens, mutants, enhanced people. Although these monsters look like humans one by one, in fact, none of them are easy to deal with. And the emergence of superheroes such as the Avengers has also made people understand that monsters should be dealt with by monsters. Standing on the top floor of the building, Rog looked down at the Electric Man in the square, and a doubt came into his mind. What does Oscorp want to do? First, they gave the Rhino armor to dangerous people like Alexei for actual combat testing. And now they let Electric Man Max cause a riot in Times Square. Rog knows that Harry Osborn is the young man who is now in control of Oscorp, so he can't understand what Harry Osborn is up to. Harry Osborn is young, but he is definitely not the kind of person who will do these meaningless things because he is young. This guy is definitely planning something. Just as Rog was thinking about what Harry Osborn was up to, Gwen, wearing a black and white spider suit, rushed to Times Square at this time. During this time, Gwen went out to patrol for justice and fight against evil almost every night. So after discovering the riot in Times Square, Gwen did not hesitate and rushed over as soon as possible. When Gwen swayed to Times Square through the spider silk, there was a sudden cheer in the square. Spider-Woman! 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 Gwen has not been in the public eye for a long time, only for more than half a month. But even so, she has gained a lot of fans, and even has her own fan support station and derivative toys. As long as there is enough exposure, even if she is just an ordinary person, she can become a superhero in people's hearts. What's more, Gwen is not an ordinary person. Gwen's appearance suddenly took away a lot of the shots belonging to Electric Man Max, and the outdoor display screen no longer showed only Electric Man Max's face. Electric Man Max versus Spider-Gwen. The battle was on the verge of breaking out. Just when everyone thought that the emerging superhero, Spider-Woman, would have a fierce confrontation with Electro, a sword wrapped in electric current streaked across the night sky like lightning and stabbed into the ground between Gwen and Electro. This was the Masked Man's sword. Although Rog hasn't appeared yet, when people recognized that the Kusanagi sword was his, the crowd once again burst into cheers. The cheers were more than 10 times louder than when Gavin appeared. Spider-Woman was just a new hero that had appeared not long ago, and the enemies she dealt with were just ordinary criminals. But the Masked Man was completely different. This was a superhero who shone brightly when aliens invaded New York. He was a superhero who could deal with the alien soldiers like cutting grass. Although the Masked Man did not appear in public after the battle in New York, it did not mean that people had forgotten his existence. In particular, he suddenly appeared half a month ago and solved the Rhino Man that made the New York police helpless. When Rog teleported to the Kusanagi sword through the Thor, and then pulled out the Kusanagi sword that was inserted into the ground, the cheers at the scene reached a peak, and the outdoor displays around the square all switched to him. Let me deal with this guy. Rog didn't explain too much to Gwen. After hearing Rog's words, Gwen nodded silently, and then quickly came to the police who were trapped in the police car, and rescued them one by one. Do you have any last words? Rog raised the Kusanagi sword and pointed the tip of the sword at Electric Man Max. Electric Man Max immediately gave his answer to Rog's impolite inquiry. Electric Man Max raised his hands directly, and a bolt of lightning gushed out of his palms and directly struck Rog, who was dozens of meters away. For these lightning bolts, the distance of dozens of meters can be covered in an instant. At the moment when Electric Man Max raised his hands, Rog also opened his Sharingan for the first time. However, after opening his Sharingan, he didn't want to avoid Electric Man Max. When those lightning bolts came in front of him with an irresistible power, he used ninjutsu. Lightning release. Chidori. The lightning emitted by Electric Man Max and the lightning gushing out of Rog's body collided fiercely, and a gorgeous and dangerous blazing light suddenly lit up, becoming the most eye-catching existence in the entire square. No one thought that Rog would use this method to resist the attack of Electric Man. Even Electric Man Max himself didn't expect that the lightning he emitted could be blocked like this. The lightning emitted by Electric Man Max seems to be omnipresent, but in the end, it's just ordinary electric current. It's not impossible to block this attack with Chidori, which also has the lightning attribute. Only magic can fight against magic. Similarly, only thunder and lightning can fight against thunder and lightning. This gorgeous and dangerous light did not last long before it dissipated. However, when the light completely dissipated, people found that Rog's figure was also missing. In terms of the degree of mutation, Electric Man Max does have a unique advantage. But the problem is that he has no combat experience. Before the mutation, Max was just a talented electrical engineer. After the mutation, he was locked in a mental hospital and studied day and night by Oscorp. Although Oscorp used Hydra's brainwashing technology to successfully brainwash Max into a biological weapon, it didn't change the fact that Max was an inexperienced novice. With Electric Man Max's ability, it's no problem for him to bully ordinary people. But in front of Rog, a battlefield veteran with terrifying combat experience, he is no different from a pig waiting to be slaughtered. Lightning release. Chidori Blade. Electric Man Max didn't notice Rog's arrival at all until Rog's voice sounded in front of him, and he barely saw Rog's looming figure. Si. The Kusanagi sword wrapped in lightning drew a beautiful arc and directly cut through Electric Man Max's neck. One sword beheading. Chapter 163. Judging from the effect of the scene, Rog's sword can be described as wonderful. Whether it is the speed of the shot or the angle of the attack, it can be described as perfect. However, Rog, who swung this sword, did not have any happy expression. The feeling is wrong. The attack missed. Although the Kusanagi sword wrapped in lightning cut across Electric Man Max's neck, there was no feeling of hitting the target from the Kusanagi sword. Although Electric Man Max's combat experience is close to zero, his survival instinct is close to a perfect score. Just at the moment when the Kusanagi sword was about to cut his neck, he instantly energized his body and avoided Rog's sword. His reaction is really fast. After the sword missed, Rog did not hesitate and directly used the body flicker technique to retreat dozens of meters away. It was not until Rog completely retreated that Electric Man Max recondensed his body into a human form. If he had not energized his body in time, then he should have become a corpse on the ground by now. The pressure of death made Electric Man Max put away all his arrogance and looked at Rog not far away with a dignified expression. When he left the mental hospital, Harry Osborn reminded Electric Man to be careful of people wearing masks. Electric Man Max didn't quite understand what it meant, but now he finally understood why Harry Osborn gave such a reminder. The guy with the mask is dangerous, very dangerous. But even so, Electric Man Max still did not have any fear. The current me is no longer that submissive existence from before. Now I am very strong, very strong. Electric Man Max began to fully stimulate the energy in his body, and electric currents of different colors appeared around him, and his whole body became extremely bright, as hot and dazzling as the summer sun. Is this a big move? In that case, I will play with you seriously. Looking at the Electric Man who was getting brighter and brighter, Rog lifted the Chidori flow on his body. Then, the light blue chakra coat began to cover his whole body. It was different from the chakra coat he used in the past. This time, the chakra coat was slightly different. On the light blue chakra's coat, visible lightning bolts could be seen moving around continuously. Rog's body was completely activated. It was an armor that wrapped lightning around the body, increasing the toughness and speed of the body, and activating the body. This was the lightning chakra mode with the lightning armor. His speed, defensive ability, and nerve conduction speed were all greatly improved at this moment. When Rog entered the lightning release chakra mode, Electric Man Max had finally finished the initial stage of charging. Electric Man Max let out a loud roar, and a lightning storm far stronger than before was instantly born. Boom. With Electric Man Max as the center, violent electric currents spread out in all directions, wantonly destroying everything around him. The ground, cars, buildings, street lamps, police officers, onlookers, the violent electric currents swept through the surroundings like a hurricane, and the bustling Times Square suddenly disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a mess like a battlefield. When the lightning storm destroyed everything around it with irresistible force, a figure stood firmly on the ground, facing the attack of the lightning storm head-on, as motionless as a mountain. That's it. A big move with such a long lead time is only this powerful? After standing in place and resisting Electric Man Max's move, Rog couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. I deliberately entered the lightning release chakra mode, and this is all you showed me? Aren't you looking down on me too much? Rog thought that Electric Man Max could bring him a fairly pleasant battle, but it turned out that he thought too much. As far as the current situation was concerned, Electric Man Max only knew 3 moves. Electric Shock, Lightning Storm, Energy Body. Although the move just now was a little stronger than the previous Lightning Storm, in the end it was just a Lightning Storm. In that case, I'll finish you quickly. With a thought, Rog's figure disappeared from everyone's sight again. The moment Rog disappeared, Electric Man Max didn't hesitate and immediately began to Energy Body. However, his reaction was still a step too slow. Lightning Body Blink. After entering the lightning release chakra mode, Rog's body blink technique also became lightning body blink, which was faster and the activation time was shorter. As soon as Electric Man Max noticed that Rog had disappeared, Rog had already appeared in front of him. 4 symbols seal. Under Electric Man Max's gaze, Rog's left hand wrapped around chakra pressed on his chest. In an instant, a seal with spiral patterns appeared on Electric Man Max's chest. Although Electric Man Max didn't know what the 4 symbols seal was, when the seal of the 4 symbols seal appeared directly on his body through the special combat suit on his body, he immediately noticed that something was wrong. His energy body had lost its effect. The process of Electric Man Max's energy body was directly interrupted by the 4 symbols seal, and the energy body's ability disappeared in an instant. You're not just weak. Rog's voice rang in Electric Man Max's ears, and then he was completely sent flying. The 4 symbols seal was a powerful sealing technique that used the cycle of the 4 symbols to seal evil, and it had an extremely powerful sealing effect. Whether it was a powerful enemy or an evil demon, they could all be sealed with the 4 symbols seal. Although Electric Man Max wasn't strong, nor was he an evil demon, this didn't stop Rog from using the 4 symbols seal to deal with him. Moreover, he didn't plan to seal Electric Man Max into his body or some tool. What he wanted was to use the 4 symbols seal to stop Electric Man Max from energy body transformation. Rog wasn't very sure if the 4 symbols seal could stop Electric Man Max from energy body transformation. So in addition to the 4 symbols seal, he also exchanged for the Vajra seal. However, judging from the current situation, the 4 symbols seal was more than enough. Without the ability to transform his body into energy, Electric Man Max was just a sandbag that could discharge electricity, and a sandbag that had a limited amount of electricity. The battle that followed was simple and dull. In front of Rog, who had entered the lightning chakra mode, Electric Man Max didn't even have a chance to fight back. All the electricity in his body was violently drained by Rog. In the end, under everyone's gaze, Electric Man was taken away by Rog with the Flying Thor, completely disappearing from Times Square. Rog didn't kill Electric Man directly because before killing him, he still had some small experiments that required Electric Man's cooperation. Chapter 164. Rog didn't take Max back to Dr. Connor's laboratory, but took him to the forest where he practiced Mokutam before. Dr. Connors couldn't help him with the experiments he wanted to do, and some of them were not suitable for children. After teleporting to the forest he didn't know the name of, he threw Max, who had no resistance, on the ground. Then he used the auxiliary skills he got when he exchanged Sage Mode. Inherent Enchantment. Shikatsu Forest. In an instant, the forest in front of him was replaced by Shikatsu Forest, and the natural energy in the air became rich. Although Electric Man Max had used up all the electricity in his body, he did not pass out because of this. He didn't know if it was because of his intuition, but when he saw the forest in front of him was replaced by Shikatsu Forest, he suddenly felt an extremely dangerous signal in his heart. Although I don't have any personal grudges with you, you should know very well that sometimes the world is so unreasonable. If there is a next life, try not to meet me. Rog looked down at Max, who was lying on the ground, and said silently. Then he came to the front of Max. In the next week, Rog came here every day to cast Inherent Enchantment, Shikatsu Forest, and at the same time to do what he wanted to do with Max. To be precise, he was studying the secrets of Max's energized body. It's not only the well-known ninja with multiple genders who has the spirit of scientific research. Rog also has a strong spirit of scientific research sometimes. And by studying Max, he can also help him further develop his own lightning ninjutsu. Time flies, and it was December in a blink of an eye. As early as a few months ago, Max was personally sent to death by Rog. Because of Max's selfless dedication, he successfully developed several new lightning ninjutsu, and his understanding and mastery of lightning release chakra mode has also been further improved. In these few months, the world was very peaceful. Except for a terrorist called Mandolin that occupied the headlines for several months, everything was quite good. As soon as Mandolin appeared, he gave the US government a few tight slaps in the face. attacking an overseas base of the United States, launching a terrorist attack within the United States, and openly releasing a provocative video. Because of Mandolin's strong appearance, the small commotion caused by the rhinoceros and the electric man in New York instantly died down. All the news channels focused their attention on Mandolin, the superstar among the terrorists. Live broadcast has been interrupted due to a cyber attack. An American airline has been hijacked. The entire country is on high alert. Where is Mandolin? Search the entire world. The president responds to the threat of Mandolin and vows to eliminate the terrorists. He could see news reports related to Mandolin if he turned on any channel. The United States government spent a lot of manpower and material resources to search for Mandolin all over the world for a few months, but they found nothing. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. received an order to search for Mandolin, but they also found nothing. However, whether they really found nothing, or whether S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't put in the effort to search at all, only King Fokker would know. So far, the only clear information was that Mandolin was related to the Ten Ring gang that kidnapped Tani. However, Mandolin obviously had no intention of hiding this, because at the end of the provocative video, he arrogantly displayed the Ten Ring gang's logo. My cabinet is actively responding to the Mandolin terrorist incident, and will use new manpower and material resources to fight back. He is Colonel James Rhodes. The American people will soon be familiar with this Iron Patriot. It was unknown whether it was for the purpose of easing public opinion, or if he really put his hopes on Colonel Rhodes. The current president, Ellis, pulled out the repainted war machine and renamed it Iron Patriot. However, his approach did not receive the support of the people. Instead, he received a lot of ridicule from the media. It's still the same battle suit, but painted red, white and blue. He also renamed it Iron Patriot to avoid being recognized if the paint is too thin. Is this how President Ellis responded? He took out the old war machine and repainted it. This is too smart. At this time, Rog was bored watching the news in his office, and at the same time, he was thinking about whether to go to Los Angeles. If he remembered correctly, Tani had a fight with the real Mandolin, and in the end, there was a fireworks show with a full Iron Man suit. Just as he was thinking about whether to go to Los Angeles, he suddenly saw the live broadcast of Tani declaring war on Mandolin. I have a small greeting to give to this Mandolin. I just thought of the words. My name is Tony Stark. You are not terrible because you are just a coward. I'm ready, you wait to die, man. I will kill you with my own hands. This is not about politics. I want to take revenge on you for a personal grudge. This has nothing to do with the Department of Defense. It's a personal grudge between you and me. Let's have a fair fight. This is my address, 10880 Marburyport, 90265. I will open the door to welcome you. After that, Tani picked up the mobile phone of the man in front of him and threw it hard at the stone pillar next to him. After throwing the man's mobile phone, Tani also said to the man, "Sue me," and then boarded his Audi R8 and left the hospital. He's very angry. Although he only watched the live news, Rog could already guess why Tani was so angry. For Tani, there are not many friends who can get his approval, and his driver and bodyguard, Happy, happens to be one of them. Sure enough, after a casual search on the internet, he found the news that Happy was injured in a terrorist attack. Rog picked up the phone on his desk and dialed Erica's internal number. "Erica, help me book a first-class ticket to Los Angeles, the sooner the better. If there is no flight, a private jet will also do." Although Mandolin belonged to Tani's exclusive dungeon, he should not mind having one more person when clearing the dungeon. More than an hour later, when Rog arrived at JFK Airport alone, he received a call from Tani. To be precise, it was a call from Little Pepper. "Rog, are you free now? We need your help." As soon as Little Pepper's voice sounded, Tani's voice followed. "Hey buddy, it's nothing, just a small terrorist. I can handle it myself." Before Rog had time to speak, there was a serious quarrel on the other side of the phone. After waiting silently for a few minutes, Tani's voice sounded again. "Well buddy, I need your help. You should know my address. I'll wait for you at home. I'll be there in 5 hours. Chapter 165. After more than 5 hours of flight, Rog successfully flew from New York to Los Angeles. Then, he came to Tani's seaside mansion located at 10880 Marbury Harbor. Or rather, the seaside ruins. Fire trucks, police cars, news interview vehicles. All kinds of vehicles were densely packed on the road in front of Tani's mansion, making the originally wide road impenetrable. "Sir, you can't go in." Rog squeezed through the crowd of onlookers, and was stopped by the police in front of the cordon. "You'll let me in." He raised his sunglasses slightly and exchanged glances with the police officer. Then the police officer took the initiative to let him in. This is just a simple use of the Sharingan's hypnotic ability. It's not even a genjutsu. Ignoring the busy investigators and firefighters, Rog went directly to Pepper, who was standing on the edge of the ruins. At this moment, little Chili Pepper's eyes were staring blankly into the distance, her hands holding onto a battle helmet with obvious cracks. "Sorry, Pepper, I'm late." Pepper is just a nickname. Although Rog has a good relationship with her, he has never called her by a nickname. "Rog, Tani, he." Upon hearing Rog's voice, little Chili Pepper finally returned to her senses and turned to look at him. Her eyes immediately showed signs of tears. "Tani is still alive. You don't have to be too sad." Although Rog didn't see the scene at the time, he was sure that Tani was not dead, because he saw a faint red signal light shining in the cracked helmet in Pepper's hand. "Put on the helmet and you'll know. Tani should have left you a message." It was only then that Pepper noticed the signal light and quickly put on the helmet. A minute later, Pepper took off the helmet, and there was no longer any sadness on her face. "Let's go find Tani now." After knowing that Tani was okay, Pepper also calmed down and changed back to the powerful president of Stark Industries. "Don't worry now, Tani can protect himself, he's Iron Man. And if you want to solve the mandolin problem, you don't have to go so far." After that, Rog pointed to Maya Hansen not far away. Tani was now taken to some corner of Tennessee by J.A.R.V.I.S. Instead of wasting energy to find Tani, it's better to start directly with Maya Hansen. As for Tani's safety, it's not a matter of concern. If this world has a so-called world consciousness, then Tani is the chosen one. Even if Rog is killed by some big shot, Tani may not die. Maya Hansen? Is she related to Mandolin? Little Chili Pepper looked at Maya Hansen in disbelief. It might be a little complicated to explain, and this isn't a good place to do so. Can you find a quieter place? Compared with a stranger she just met, Pepper obviously believed in Rog more and immediately said, "No problem, come with me." A few minutes later, Pepper drove her Audi S7 and took Rog and Maya Hansen away from the ruined mansion. Rog didn't know where Pepper would take them, but it didn't matter. Anyway, as long as the place was quiet enough and there were no outsiders waiting, Pepper drove the car without saying a word. Maya Hansen sat in the passenger seat, and Rog stayed alone in the back. After getting in the car, Pepper simply introduced Rog's name, and then put all her attention on driving. Maya Hansen, sitting in the passenger seat, quickly noticed that the atmosphere was not right, but she obviously had no choice at this time. More than 20 minutes later, Pepper brought Rog and Maya Hansen to a not-so-luxurious hotel, and quickly checked in. As soon as they entered the hotel room and sat down, Pepper asked Maya Hansen, "Why did you come to my house today? What's so important that you have to talk to Tani face to face?" "I think my boss is working for Mandolin." Maya Hansen answered Pepper's question without any change in her expression. However, as soon as she answered, Rog suddenly laughed. "What's wrong?" Maya Hansen turned to look at Rog. "I thought of something happy," Rog replied in a low voice. "Your boss is working for Mandolin. How is that possible? Tani clearly said that you're a botanist." Pepper continued to ask Maya Hansen. "Yes, I'm a biological genetic coder, in charge of a team of 40 people under a privately sponsored think tank, but you can call me a botanist." Maya Hansen answered Pepper's question seriously once again, and then they heard Rog's laughter again. "What are you laughing about?" Maya Hansen's tone became a little dissatisfied. "I thought of something happy again," Rog replied, controlling his laughter. Although she knew that Rog was doing it on purpose, Maya Hansen really could not do anything about it at this time. She could only glare at him hatefully, warning him to stop causing trouble with her eyes. "What's your boss's name?" "His name is Aldrich Kirian." After hearing Maya Hansen's answer, Pepper was shocked, and then they heard Rog's uncontrollable laughter. Pepper also noticed that Rog was acting a little strange today, but she did not understand why Rog would do this. "You've gone too far. I've tolerated you for a long time." Before Pepper could say anything, Maya Hansen was the first to speak. She stood up angrily and quickly came in front of Rog, and said angrily to Rog, "Who are you?" "Me? My name is Rog, a ninja who has undergone strict training." Looking at the angry Maya Hansen, Roger finally put away the smile on his face and replied seriously, "You." Although Maya Hansen wanted to vent her anger, she knew very well that now was not a good time to do such a thing. "Okay, I'm done playing. I thought your acting skills would be better, but I didn't expect you to be this good." Rog took off his sunglasses and then said, "You may not be familiar with my name, but you should have heard of my nickname. I am the Masked Man." After hearing the Masked Man's name, Maya Hansen, who was still dissatisfied, suddenly took a deep breath and then turned to look at the door of the room. "He is the Masked Man. He is Tani's teammate in the Avengers." At this moment, Maya Hansen's mind no longer had the so-called plan. Her only thought now is how to leave here, leave this Masked Man who is dozens of times more dangerous than Iron Man Tani. Chapter 166. Give up those unrealistic ideas. I don't want to be rough with women. Rog saw Maya Hansen's thoughts at a glance and reminded her warmly. After seeing Maya Hansen's nervous behavior at this time, Little Pepper was finally convinced that Maya Hansen was indeed related to Mandolin. "Sit down first. Your companions won't be here so soon." After saying that, Rog ignored Maya Hansen and went straight to find a seat and sat down. The reason why Maya Hansen appeared at Tani's house at this time was nothing more than to let Tani complete the final equation of Extremis and solve the shortcoming of Extremis that it will self-destruct once it overheats. Whether it was Maya Hansen taking the initiative to go to Tani's mansion, or Mandolin's men just happened to launch an attack at that time, everything was in their plan. Although the final result was a little different from what they had imagined, overall the plan was still going smoothly. Although Tani's whereabouts are unknown, Little Pepper is still there. As long as they control Little Pepper, they don't have to worry about what Tani will do to them. Maya Hansen has also been acting according to the established plan, but what she didn't expect was that the Masked Man, Rog, would appear at this time. After glancing at Little Pepper, who was already vigilant, and Rog, who had an indifferent expression, Maya Hansen silently sat back in her original position. "From now on I'll ask you answer, understand?" After hearing Rog's words, Maya Hansen turned her head and glanced at him, then said, "What's wrong with your eyes?" Maya Hansen's question made Rog stunned. What's wrong with this woman's brain? Is this the time to care about my eyes? Don't get the point wrong. This has nothing to do with you. What I ask you answer. You are not qualified to ask questions. Rog's tone became stern and he said solemnly, "Rog, are your eyes okay?" Maya Hansen did not say anything else, but Little Pepper's voice rang out. Little Pepper did not pay attention to Rog's eyes at first, but after hearing Maya Hansen's question, she realized that Rog's eyes were completely different from normal people's eyes. It was blood red in color, and there were 3 comma-like things around its pupils. Little Chili Pepper was not the kind of person who was particularly curious, but since she had already regarded Rog as a friend, she felt that it was necessary to be concerned about Rog's current health. "My eyes are fine. You can simply think of it as my superpower." Rog had no intention of explaining to them what the 3-Tomo Sharingan was, and simply answered. After dealing with the matter of the Electric Man, Kuroto set his Sharingan to a constant state of 24 hours a day. Anyway, with second last chakra and immortal body, it wouldn't be a burden for him to keep his Sharingan open 24/7. Most importantly, he felt that this could effectively improve his style and charm. Just like the Electric Man, just by looking at his appearance, he knew that this guy was not simple. Now back to the topic, where is Aldrich Kirian now? Rog has no interest in the mandolin on the surface. That guy is just a stage actor. But Aldrich Kirian was different. To a certain extent, this guy was considered a decent talent. And Rog is very interested in the extremists on him. I don't know. Maya Hansen replied quickly. But as soon as she finished speaking, she saw Rog's displeased look and immediately added, I really don't know, unless he takes the initiative to find me. I can't contact him at all. Rog did not use Genjutsu on Maya Hansen, but he silently used the hypnotic ability of Sharingan. Maya Hansen is just an ordinary person. She can't resist the hypnosis of Sharingan, so it is basically certain that she is telling the truth now. Give me the equation of extremis. Since it is impossible to determine the location of Aldrich Kirian for the time being, it is not a bad idea to get the equation of extremis first. Extremis? You want extremis? After hearing the word extremis from Rog's mouth, Maya Hansen really panicked. Except for her and Kirian, not many people know about the existence of extremis. Even those who participated in the experimental transformation did not know the name of extremis, but now, she heard the word from Rog's mouth. How does he know this? This is the highest level of secret. How could he know? Of course, Rog wouldn't tell Maya Hansen how he knew. This was his prophetic ability that belonged to him alone. Since you know about extremis, then you should know that the current virus equation is not stable. Once overheating occurs, the experimental body will self-destruct, unless you can further perfect it. Maya Hansen did not immediately hand over the equation of extremis, but directly told Rog about the flaws in it. You don't have to worry about this, you just have to give me the equation in your hand. At Rog's insistence, Maya Hansen wrote the equation of extremis on white paper, and then reluctantly handed it to Rog. This equation is the most important work of her life, and everything she has done is to completely perfect this equation. If you perfect this equation, can you let me take a look at the final result? Just one look. Although she knew that this hope was infinitely close to zero, Maya Hansen still couldn't help but pray to Rog. Let's talk about it when the time comes. After carefully folding the paper with the equation and putting it in the pocket of his jacket, Rog showed a satisfied smile. The equation of extremis is in hand, and the goal of this trip is half completed. Just when Maya Hansen was about to continue to pray to Rog, the door of the room was suddenly violently knocked open, and a big man nearly 2 meters tall walked in. Your companion is here to pick you up. Rog didn't care about the big man who suddenly broke in and raised his right hand and aimed his palm at him. Lightning release, lightning palm. In an instant, more than a dozen lightning bolts as thick as 2 fingers gushed out of his palm and slammed into the big man who broke through the door. Boom. Although the lightning launched by lightning palm is not thick, its power is not weak at all. The big man at the door intended to resist lightning palm with his body, but at the moment when the lightning hit him, he was knocked out and hit the wall of the aisle heavily, leaving a human-sized hole in the wall. Lightning palm is not a ninjutsu that he exchanged from the system, and he developed the lightning release ninjutsu alone after studying Electric Man. Chapter 167. The big man didn't expect that he would be hit by such a strong lightning strike as soon as he entered the door. Rog's thunder palm not only stunned him directly, but also caused him extremely serious injuries. If he hadn't been modified by extremis, then the thunder palm just now would have sent him to hell without any suspense. He's not dead yet? He's quite resistant. Although the big man who was hit by the thunder palm was extremely embarrassed at this time, and his right arm was directly broken, but he still didn't die. On his body, Rog can also feel an extremely strong aura of life. In fact, it's not quite accurate to say that it's an aura of life. It should be said that it's a strong energy reaction. Under the gaze of Rog and the other two, the big man with a broken arm became red all over, as if there was magma flowing in his body. Not only that, the big man's broken right arm began to grow back at a speed visible to the naked eye. It took less than 10 seconds for the big man's right arm to completely recover, and his skin also returned to the appearance of a normal person. It seems that the extremis you developed is quite good. Rog turned his head and praised Maya Hansen. although it's not stable enough, and it looks a little disgusting when it recovers. But he has to admit that Extremis has given the host an unimaginable and amazing recovery power. This amazing recovery effect made Rog unable to help but have the idea of injecting Abomination. Abomination, whose strength and physique are off the charts, has incredible recovery ability, turning him into a real warrior and meat shield. This kind of picture is very beautiful to think about. It would be even more perfect if Tani could fix the defect that Extremis will self-destruct when it overheats. In just a second or two, several thoughts flashed through Rog's mind. If you have any positioning or tracking devices on you, you'd better take them out now. After leaving a sentence to Maya Hansen, Rog walked towards the big man in the passage. The big man was also in a dilemma at this time. According to the plan, he should have taken Little Pepper away easily. However, Rog's appearance completely disrupted their plans. Although he hadn't really fought with Rog yet, through the Thunder Palm just now, the big man had roughly understood the difference in strength between the two of them. One move can seriously injure him, forcing him to use Extremis to repair himself. This kind of enemy was definitely not something he could handle alone. At this moment, the burly man began to regret coming here alone. If he can have a few more companions who have also been transformed by Extremis now, even if he still can't defeat Rog in the end, he will at least have a chance to take Little Pepper away. Although the Thunder Palm that Rog used just now wasn't a powerful ninjutsu, but the loud sound like real lightning still woke up many guests in the hotel. Especially the guests who lived on the same floor as him. One by one, the guests walked out of their rooms and began to search for the source of the noise. Then, they saw the big man in the aisle whose clothes were tattered because he used Extremis to repair himself, and the impact crater the size of a person behind the big man. After noticing that more and more guests were focusing their eyes on him, the big man suddenly had a plan. The big man's legs suddenly exerted force, and he pounced to the side like a cheetah, temporarily leaving Rog's sight. Then, without hesitation, the big man went directly to the fire alarm bell and broke the glass on the alarm bell with a punch. At the moment when the alarm bell was broken, a harsh alarm sounded throughout the hotel. After doing this, the big man still had no intention of stopping, and he began to actively urge the Extremis in his body. In the blink of an eye, his hands turned red, like the red-hot iron that had just been taken out of the stove. The guests who had walked out of their rooms because of the sound of the palm thunder all revealed terrified expressions when they saw this scene. Here, the Battle of New York must be mentioned again. For ordinary people on the Earth, the Battle of New York is not just a battlefield where aliens invaded the Earth, but also a war that made them understand that there are many monsters in the world they live in. Therefore, when these guests saw the big man whose hands had turned red, they immediately realized that this big man was the so-called monster. Although they don't know whether this big man is a good person or a bad person, for ordinary people, this makes no difference. It's like ordinary people seeing a gunfight on the street. Their first reaction is definitely not to understand who the two sides of the gunfight are, but to immediately avoid or stay away to avoid being involved in unnecessary danger. However, just as these guests planned to return to their rooms or run directly to the safe passage, they were immediately drenched. The hotel's fire protection system was activated. A large amount of water poured down crazily as if it didn't cost money. Of course, it was the big man with red hands who caused the fire protection system to be activated. Using the steel in his hands that can melt steel, the big man successfully made the hotel's fire protection system work. It's common sense that water can conduct electricity. This is what the big man wants to take advantage of. After getting wet, it's easier to be hit by Rog's lightning. But at the same time, it will also cause the lightning to accidentally injure others. For example, Little Pepper, who is in the same room with Rog, and with the spread of the water, it can also effectively dissolve the lightning attack that is enough to seriously injure him. If the lightning only hits him, of course, it can seriously injure him in one move. But if there are others to share the damage, then the threat of the Thunder Palm will naturally decrease a lot. After seeing that Rog didn't immediately attack when he walked out of the door, the corner of the big man's mouth unconsciously raised. The bet was right. This guy doesn't dare to accidentally injure others. However, What the big man didn't expect was that the reason why Rog didn't immediately attack was not because he was worried about accidentally injuring others, but because he was thinking about a somewhat serious problem. Wait a minute, where should I buy a new set of clothes? If you want to fight, just fight. Why do you have to wet people's clothes? After letting out a helpless sigh, Rog turned his gaze back to the large man. For some reason, when Roger raised his head to look at him, the burly man suddenly felt an instinctive sense of danger from his body. Danger, run. The moment this thought appeared in the big man's mind, Rog also appeared in front of him like a ghost. Lightning body blink. Before the weak electric current that wrapped around Rog's body dissipated, his right hand grabbed the big man's neck and lifted him up. Discharger 1,000,000 volts. The big man who was lifted up by Rog didn't have time to counterattack. A visible electric current directly appeared on his body. Along with the electric current, the big man screamed in extreme pain. Chapter 168. What kind of experience is it to be electrocuted by 1,000,000 volts? Rog has never been electrocuted before, so he doesn't know. But judging from the big man who kept screaming in front of him, it should be a tragic and painful experience. If this big man hadn't been injected with extremis, he wouldn't have to experience this extreme pain now, because the moment he was electrocuted, he would have completely lost his life. However, extremis, which gave him extraordinary power, also brought him extreme pain at this time. Under the extremely high temperature generated by the electric current, the big man's body began to rapidly scorch. But at the same time, extremis was also constantly repairing his injured body. On one side is destruction, and on the other side is rebirth. The two completely different experiences made the burly man feel as if he was jumping between heaven and hell. If he could, the big man would rather have never been injected with extremis than experience the extreme pain at this time. Rog didn't plan to kill the big man immediately. If he wanted to, he could increase the current by dozens or even hundreds of times at any time. First, give the enemy extreme pain that they can't resist, and then ask the enemy for the information he wants. Although this approach seems a bit cruel, it is very effective. However, Rog obviously overestimated the big man in his hand, or rather, overestimated the extremis developed by Maya Hansen. After being abused by an electric current of up to 1,000,000 volts for more than 10 seconds, the extremis in the big man's body also came to the verge of collapse. To be precise, it was on the verge of self-destruction. After discovering the abnormality coming from the big man's body, Rog kicked open the door of the nearest room, and then took out a flying Thor kunai. At the moment when he kicked open the door, Rog saw a panicked young man and woman hiding in the corner. This woman has a pretty good figure. After seeing the young blonde woman with a flustered look on her face and shivering, a very inappropriate idea emerged in Rog's mind. Although thoughts that shouldn't have appeared in his mind, Rog's empty left hand didn't hesitate at all, and he directly threw out the flying Thor kunai in his hand. Boom! The flying Thor kunai pierced through the glass of the room like a bullet out of a barrel, and flew into the air outside the hotel. The flying Thor kunai that broke through the window glass did not fall down like an ordinary item, but under Rog's control, it turned around and flew towards the sky. After the flying Thor kunai flew hundreds of meters into the air, he disappeared into the hotel's passage with the big man. Flying Thor 2. Rog grabbed the flying Thor kunai that was still flying towards the high altitude, and then threw the big man on his right hand. And he himself, under the influence of gravity, he began to fall. The big man's big. Big kunai's kunai, SSS. The fireball only lasted for a short period of a few tenths of a second before completely dissipating, and the night sky returned to its original appearance again. After dealing with this self-destructing desperation fighter, Rog once again threw out the flying Thor kunai in his hand, and then controlled the flying Thor kunai to fly back to the hotel. When he was about to have a close contact with the ground, he teleported back to the hotel with the flying thunder god. He doesn't know if the big man just now was not completely transformed by extremis, or for some other reason, but Rog always felt that the big man was a little different from the desperation fighter in his impression. Except for his self-healing ability and his body's ability to generate high temperatures, He is very weak in other aspects, so weak that he has hundreds of ways to end the battle in an instant. In his memory, Killian, who was also transformed by Extremis, was a fierce man who could tear Tawny's several sets of Iron Man armors with his bare hands. Furthermore, even though he had endured the self-destruction of Mark 42's prodigal son, he still hadn't lost his life. Compared with Killian, the big man just now was not a little weak. Of course, this may also be because people's physiques are different from each other. Rog once heard that there was once a junior high school student surnamed Lou, who fought with more than 20 people with knives for 75 minutes, and then ran for more than 30 kilometers in one breath. Although he didn't know this junior high school student, since a junior high school student can do this, it shows that the physiques between people can't be generalized. Not to mention that there is also a person who can predict the shooting position in extreme anger, avoid 30 rifle bullets without any injuries, and finally disarm with a punch. As for other things like slide shovel killing tiger, gravity kick killing bear, cross breaking bear's arm, back throwing strong man, etc., it seems to be quite common. Times have really changed. Roger tossed these messy thoughts to the back of his mind and returned to the room where Little Pepper and Maya Hansen were staying. He said, "That man has been dealt with, but we'll have to change hotels." Both Little Pepper and Maya Hansen were not surprised by this outcome. If Rog couldn't take care of that man, then it would be a surprise. Although it did not cause much damage to the hotel, the appearance of the man still caused a lot of trouble to the hotel guests. For example, the hotel's fire system was still spraying water wildly. But these were all small problems. With Little Pepper's current status and ability, dealing with this kind of thing was not much more difficult than asking the housekeeper to make breakfast. Dozens of minutes later, Rog and the other two appeared in a famous five-star hotel in Los Angeles. Although Maya Hansen was still an enemy, Little Pepper still booked a room for her alone, not worried that she would run away or do something she shouldn't do. Anyway, Rog was here, and even if there was a problem, Rog would solve it. After witnessing Rog's battle with her own eyes, Little Pepper had more and more trust in him. But at this time, Rog obviously did not care about Maya Hansen. Now he was using the exclusive service provided by his American Centurion Black Gold card. First, he asked them to get him a set of high-end clothes and matching shoes. Then he asked them to get him an off-road vehicle with excellent performance. In the end, he asked them to arrange for two beautiful blondes to be his guests. This evil capitalist society. The night passed in the blink of an eye. Before Little Pepper and Maya Hansen woke up, Rog left the hotel alone and began the next step of his plan. Of course, before he left a letter for the hotel staff and asked them to hand it to Little Pepper when she woke up. As for Maya Hansen, it was impossible for her to hurt Little Chili Pepper, who was already on guard against her. And just in case, he deliberately summoned the Punisher and asked it to secretly protect Little Pepper. Chapter 169. After leaving the hotel, Rog drove directly to Tawny's seaside mansion. He now has the Extremis formula, but he still needs a highly intelligent person who can perfect the formula and self-destruct the defects. Since a high IQ is mentioned, it must be Tawny. If you have any difficulties, look for Tawny. After a night of investigation, the police and firefighters near Tawny's mansion have left. Only the staff cleaning up the ruins, and a small number of police officers maintaining order, are still in the ruins of the mansion. Using the hypnotic ability of Sharingan, Rog easily came to the interior of the mansion, and came to the Tawny studio at the bottom. The reason why he came back here was because he wanted to find a person here, or a super advanced artificial intelligence. Judging from the degree of destruction, Tawny's mansion can be regarded as completely destroyed. Even the ruins are only left with the part connected to the mountain. But in fact, the most important things in Tawny's mansion were not damaged in the slightest by Mandolin's attack. For example, the Iron Man armor hanger hidden under the studio. For example, artificial intelligence JRVIS. After dispersing the staff who were cleaning up the ruins, Rog said to the air, JARVIS. I know you can hear me, come out. After waiting patiently for a few seconds, he heard a voice coming from the ground. I'm sorry, Mr. Rog, but I can only talk to you in this way now. Jarvis. Voices as usual, except that it is a little weak because of the distance and the steel gate of the hangar. But this is normal. After all, the only equipment that can make Jarvis make a sound are the Iron Man armors in the hangar. It doesn't matter. Give me a way to contact you and Tani at any time. Or you can directly hack into my mobile phone. I know you can do this. Before Sky joined the company, Rog did not have the habit of carrying a mobile phone with him, because it was very unsafe and there was a danger of revealing his whereabouts at any time. But ever since the hacker genius Sky joined the team, everything had changed. With the anti-intrusion program specially written by Sky, the security of the mobile phone has improved by more than a little. Yes, sir. Please wait a moment. It had to be said that Sky's anti-intrusion program was indeed very good. Even in the face of Jarvis's invasion, this program still persisted tenaciously for more than 3 minutes before it was completely broken through by Jarvis. Mr. Rog, the contact information has been entered into your phone. Number 1 is Mr. Stark's contact information, and number 2 is Mark 42's contact information. You can contact me through Mark 42 at any time. Thanks, Jarvis. After getting the contact information for Tani and Jarvis, Rog went straight back to the off-road vehicle and called Tani. After more than 10 minutes of conversation, they roughly understood the other party's current situation. Tani was now in a small town called Rose Hill in Tennessee. Here, he found the first explosion that was suspected to be caused by Mandolin and obtained some information. He knew that all of this was related to AIM Pioneer technology. Of course, Tani didn't forget to tell Rog that he was attacked by 2 extremist fighters and met a pretty good little boy. Rog also briefly told Tani about what happened last night, including the fact that he arranged the Punishers to secretly protect Little Pepper. Finally, he also told Tani about perfecting the extremist equation. Tani didn't refuse Rog's request, but he didn't agree immediately, but said that he would think about it. Rog didn't care too much about this. As long as he didn't refuse directly, with his understanding of Tani will eventually help him perfect the extremist equation. Before hanging up the phone, Tani also told Rog a piece of news. He is now asking Jarvis to analyze the satellite reception equipment of AIM Pioneer technology, and he will soon be able to locate the specific location where Mandolin released the video last night. Although Rog knew which video Tani was talking about, unfortunately, he didn't see the video last night. Because at that time, he was studying the meaning of life with 2 blondes in the presidential suite. The address where the video was released should be in Miami, Florida. If you are free, you can go there now. After directly telling Tani where Mandolin is now, Rog took the initiative to hang up the phone and booked a first-class ticket to Miami for himself. It takes more than 5 hours to fly from Los Angeles to Miami, which is not much different from flying from New York to Los Angeles. But this time, Rog hopes that he won't miss anything. Last time, he missed the scene where Mandolin attacked Tani's mansion. More than 7 hours later, Rog saw Tani wearing a red children's watch, a black hoodie, and a black backpack behind Mandolin's villa. Your new style is quite unique. Compared to Tani's previous outfit, he now looked particularly down-to-earth and approachable. He didn't have the aura of a playboy or a super rich man at all. This is also a limited edition. It's my friend's sister's. Tani didn't take Rog's teasing to heart at all, and said with a serious face, "Where's your battlesuit? You're not planning to use these to attack the villa, are you? The people inside are armed with real guns and live ammunition." Glancing at Tani's equipment, Rog had to admire Tani's courage. "Don't underestimate these things. I made them myself." Tani replied confidently, "You're the boss. You have the final say." Although the equipment on his body was slightly rough, the things made by Tani himself were never bad. "I haven't seen you for a while, and you've started wearing contact lenses. Why don't you do a manicure too?" Tani began to fight back. "These are not contact lenses, these are real eyes." This is the attitude that Tani should have, and Rog nodded with relief. "Don't talk nonsense. Do you want to do it or should I?" Tani pointed to the guards in the villa and said, "You're so well prepared. It would be unreasonable if I don't let you do your best. You're the main attacker and I'll assist you." After deciding on the division of labor, Tani didn't want to continue arguing with Rog. He quickly ran to the wall of the villa and climbed over the wall with a completely fluid movement. Iron Man was forced to use his physical body. It's not easy. Roger followed closely behind Tony to prevent Tony from accidentally dying to a bullet that came out of nowhere, as it was his first time fighting with his physical body. Chapter 170. Although Tani's movements are a little rusty, his efficiency is not low at all when it comes to real action. Nail gun, taser, homemade grenade, electric shock gloves, all kinds of gadgets made by Stark himself played a good role, allowing Tani to smoothly enter the interior of the villa without alarming too many guards. "I didn't know that you had specially trained." Rog has always kept a distance of about 2 meters from Tani, protecting Tani while observing Tani's fighting skills. "Without the Iron Man armor, I am also Iron Man," Tani replied with great confidence. Perhaps it's because he's too confident, or maybe it's because he lacks experience in close combat. Tani didn't find out that the guard who was stunned by him was only stunned for a few seconds. Tani didn't notice the awakening of the guard, but Rog wouldn't make such a low-level mistake like him. Sneer. Just as the guard pulled out the pistol from his waist, a flying Thor kunai flew in front of him like lightning and cut his neck directly. At the moment when he killed the guard with the flying Thor kunai, Rog also used body flicker to come behind the guard and grab the guard who was about to fall forward. "You are too careless." It was not until this time that Tani discovered that the guard had woken up. He has more fat in his body and has a higher electrical resistance, so he woke up faster. Although Tani's words sound reasonable, there is only one main meaning, that is, the guard woke up so quickly, not because the electric shock gloves he made are not good enough. It makes sense. Rog did not refute Tani's explanation, and silently put down the body in his hand. Except for this little episode that was beyond Tani's expectations, the next action was extremely smooth. Tani and Rog successfully came to Mandolin's exaggerated bedroom. Tani, with a gun in his right hand, carefully came to the bed and then lifted the quilt on the bed. There were indeed 2 people on the bed, but it was not Mandolin as Tani imagined, but 2 girls in sexy underwear. It seems that Rog was not the only one who had a night of sex last night. Looking carefully at the 2 girls who woke up on the bed, Rog felt that the 2 blondes he had last night were more interesting. At this moment, not only were the 2 girls on the bed panicking, but also Tony, who was holding a pistol, was panicking. What's going on? What about the bearded Mandolin? Just when Tani began to wonder if he had come to the wrong room, the sound of water suddenly came from the toilet next to him. Without any hesitation, Tani made a silent gesture to the 2 girls on the bed, then immediately retreated to a corner by the bed. "Which one of you is Vanessa?" Mandolin, who had just come out of the toilet, did not notice that there were 2 more men in the room. He walked to the table by the bed and asked the 2 girls on the bed. "It's me." A girl replied immediately. "You know what? Actually, the fortune cookie is not. God. Who are you?" Mandolin wanted to show his humor or talent. As soon as he turned around, he saw Rog standing at the door. "It doesn't matter who I am. I think you should pay more attention to him now." After saying that, Rog pointed to Tani, who walked out of the corner. Looking in the direction Rog pointed, Mandolin saw Tani, who was pointing a pistol at him with a puzzled look on his face. "Don't move." "I won't move." Mandolin raised his hands for the first time. "Take whatever you want. These guns are fake because those bastards didn't dare to give me real guns," Mandolin suggested with a sincere face. "What?" At this time, Tani's intelligent brain was immediately filled with doubts. "Then why don't you take these 2 girls away?" Mandolin continued to suggest. "Enough. You are not Mandolin. Where is the real Mandolin?" After saying that, Tani angrily pulled the pistol's sleeve, expressing his determination to shoot at any time. "Where is he? Where is he?" Tani roared angrily at Mandolin, and now he felt like a monkey being teased in a circus. "He is here, but he is not here." Under Tony's aggressive questioning, Mandolin began to explain the ins and outs of everything that had happened. My name is Trevor, Trevor Slatley. After listening to the fake Mandolin, Tony finally figured out the truth of the matter. Just as he was about to turn his head and ask Rog for his opinion, he found that Rog had already left the bedroom. When Tony began to ask about the fake Mandolin, Rog quietly left the bedroom and began to look for the real Mandolin in the villa. An imposter was not worth a trip to Miami in person. From the beginning to the end, his goal was only Killian. While waiting for Tony's arrival, he used chakra to investigate the situation in the villa. As he expected, there was a strong high-energy reaction in the villa, and it was a high-energy reaction from the human body. However, he couldn't tell whether this high-energy reaction came from the Desperation Warrior or Killian. The target with the high-energy reaction showed no signs of leaving the villa, and he also wanted to see if Tony would personally perform a self-taught infiltration operation as he remembered, so he patiently waited for Tony's arrival. Although the development of things was a little different from what he remembered, he still appreciated Tony's only infiltration operation in his life. Regarding this, he was very satisfied, very satisfied. However, he soon experienced the taste of disappointment. When he came to the room with the high-energy reaction, he didn't see Killian as he expected, only a big man he didn't know at all. The big man in a tight camouflage vest and camouflage trousers obviously didn't expect a stranger to come inside the villa. You continue, don't worry about me, I'm just a passerby. The big man was originally beating a black man who wasn't very strong, but after seeing Rog's arrival, he stopped his violent beating. Before the big man in the tight vest spoke, the black man spoke first. Rog? You're Rog. You know me? Rog was very sure that he had never seen this black man before. I'm Colonel Rhodes, Tony's friend, the one who fought for the machine. Colonel Rhodes quickly explained. Oh, it's you. No wonder he felt that Colonel Rhodes was a little familiar from the beginning. It turned out that he was one of Tony's only friends. Just as Rog was about to rescue Colonel Rhodes, fierce gunshots and explosions suddenly sounded in the villa. You're tuning in to the Lee May's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.